You're tuning in to the Raised by Rentals program. This podcast will contain strong language and spoilers for decades-old media properties.
Join us.
Welcome, everybody. This is the podcast where we examine pop culture franchises of the VHS era and sometimes spend hours planning and recording not one, but two episodes focused on minor holidays because that's what the kids want these days. We definitely have our fingers on the pulse of what's hot, so get ready to see your TikTok videos praising our genius go viral because we're back to imagine how we might improve our favorite movies, TV, games, and secular observances. I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
And we were raised by rentals. Mike, what the fuck is an arbor?
Don't know. I'm still laughing at the secular observances.
Hey, we're just expanding the scope of the podcast. You know, we've done some comics, we've done a book. You know, why not, right?
Right. Oh my God, that's fantastic.
You know, non-civic holidays.
I never know what you're going to say with the opening, so you always get me. I'm like, what is he going to say this time?
And see, that's my goal now. Like when I write, I'm like, oh, like even when I'm tired and feeling lazy, like, oh, I'll just say something simple. I'm like, no, I can't do that. Like I gotta catch Mike off guard so he laughs through his name. Oh,
exactly. It's become tradition at this point.
Exactly, right? Oh, God. So, fucking Arbor, right? Arbor. It's Arbor Day. If this episode comes out on time, people are listening to this on Arbor Day, at least on the national observance of Arbor Day in the United States, which is on the last Friday in April. So this year, 2026, April 24th is Arbor Day. But actually, I found out today while I was making some notes that Arbor Day is on a different day depending on what state you live in. So for me in Texas,
I never knew that.
Yeah, me neither. I missed it in Texas because, I missed it last year because it was the first Friday in November, and I had no idea that it was happening a couple months ago. So I guess we'll look forward to it later this year.
Interesting.
But in New York, it is the last Friday in April. But yeah, like I said, it's different in every state, and I think it's one of those, one of those secular observances that I think most people in the U.S. have heard of it, but maybe they don't know exactly what it is. So I don't really want to go on and on of explaining like the virtues of Arbor Day because we're here to turn it into a horror movie, right? Because that's what we do on this podcast. Yep. We just turn things into horror movies.
Funny thing about Arbor Day, just a little quick side note. When I first started working at the hospital, I had there was an older woman who worked there. I'm not going to name names, but she took every holiday off. No matter what, she took the holiday off. If the holiday was on the calendar, she would take it off. And when our little desk calendars had Arbor Day listed, I kept saying, watch, she's going to take Arbor Day off because it says that it's a holiday. And there was one year, now she didn't say she was taking it off for Arbor Day, but she did happen to have a PTO day in on Arbor Day. And I'm like, oh, she did it.
That counts, man. You win the bet.
Right, exactly.
I guess I did some research today, but I didn't go crazy with it, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. But a couple of facts and figures. So yes, it's Arbor Day. It's a yearly celebration devoted to planting and appreciating trees. I mean, that's it, right? That's the end of the definition. But
pretty much.
But yeah, believe it or not, it actually, again, as I learned today, it apparently began in Spain in 1594. Well, at least that was the first time that anybody ever had like a sort of official festival around the concept of planting trees, and it was in it was like one village, right, Montañedo, and then there was, which I guess to this day I've never been there, I don't know, but the internet tells me that there's a place in Montañedo called the Avenue of Remedies that's like a big promenade where you can walk, and it's a park, and there's trees and walkways, and they have all of these trees that some of them date all the way back to like the 16th century. So that's interesting. But then there was a couple other kind of similar festivals, but the first Arbor Day in the United States happened in Nebraska in 1872, which is again way older than I would have expected. And
that's a lot older than I expected.
Right? 1872. And I didn't look at every state, but apparently I believe that Nebraska is the only state where Arbor Day is a civic holiday, like where people get the day off of work, like, and the banks are closed because it's a state holiday there, because they started it. And but it was like, Nebraska, it's very, it's flat. Farmland is probably what most people expect or vision when you picture, like, what is Nebraska? I'm not from there. I've never been there. So I hope I'm not speaking, for the people of Nebraska in a negative way. But basically, it was a celebration, or it was like a festival to plant trees because they needed like wind breaks for the plants and just shade for the humans. And they made like a whole festival out of it, and it grew from there. And yeah, since the 1920s at some point is when it became a nationally recognized observance, but not technically a holiday. But yeah, like I said, not every state is on a different day, but the states set the date that it's on. So the national one is April 24th, or I should say it's the last Friday in April, but they're all a little bit different. So there you go. There's your facts and figures about Arbor Day. If it was a more fun holiday, I would go on, and we talk about, like, Mike, what are your memories of Arbor Day? Like, what did you and your family used to do when you were kids?
Right.
But this is not a Super Gushers episode, and the title is not "We Love Arbor Day and Arbor Day Loves Us Back." The title is, as you can see from your podcast feed, Arbor Day Massacre.
Yes.
Which is way more fun.
Indeed.
So yeah, this is a concept that you had floated, I don't even know how long ago, but I would say early on in the podcast history, at the point where we had started thinking about doing more original ideas that weren't just like some movie or TV show that we were going to like riff on. I know it's come up several times. It's, I think, even been mentioned in some episodes when we were thinking about doing our Festivus episode, the Town That Dreaded Festivus. It was one of the couple of minor holidays that we floated before we settled on Festivus. Like, it'd be really funny for you, the Town That Dreaded Arbor Day.
Yep, exactly.
But at the time, like, I know I, for one, like, I didn't really take it seriously until recently. And we were trying to plan episodes for this season, and looking at the calendar, and we always focus on holidays toward the later in the year. We do, obviously Halloween and Christmas are really big for us, but even things like, let's do a summer blockbuster, let's do a back to school special, and we don't really do too much at the beginning of the year. Like, we've never done a New Year's Eve or New Year's Day special. Like, maybe some season coming up, but we've never done that. And and thinking about, well, what else is there earlier in the year, like President's Day, Easter, like what would be funny? And again, Arbor Day just kept coming up while we were kind of joking about it until something clicked, and it was like, you know what, trees are creepy sometimes.
I hate that you mentioned President's Day in this conversation, because immediately I got an idea for a President's Day horror movie.
Write it down before you forget. Text me later. Next February, yes, let's do it.
Oh my God.
But I started thinking, and I know that you remember this, right? Because and this is me like saying, hey, remember that conversation that we had like a couple weeks ago?
Exactly.
But I was so like when we finally, at least it clicked for me to finally settle on, like, we're doing this. It was like, yeah, trees can definitely be creepy, and it made me think of one of my earliest memories being a kid. I lived in Texas when I was a kid, even though I grew up in Western New York, and I had a short I had a script for a short comic that I put together years ago that you and I were going to do a comic for. So I know you're familiar with it. And the name of the comic was Weeping Willow. And
Yep.
not that there was actually a willow involved in my memory. It just seemed like a good title, and like it's the name of a tree that people can picture. But in my memory, I don't know how it played out in real life, but it was just one of these basic things where some minor thing scares you. But I remember I was sleeping in the trailer that we lived in when I was a kid. I must have been probably 3 years old, and I wasn't in my regular bedroom. I don't know what this other room was that we had. It was like kind of like a guest room, and my uncle lived with us for a little while. But I was sleeping in this room, and the bed was right up against the wall with the window, and it was windy, and I remember just being scared shitless because it was totally dark. I must have woken up in the middle of the night because I heard noises, and there was a tree branch that was swinging in the wind, and it was clacking on the window. Like that's exactly the sound that I remember. It was this, sort of like almost like drumming your fingers on a desk. It wasn't like a snap snap. It was like a, clack 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 clack. That's how, at least that's how I remember it. And that's exactly what I thought. It felt like there was somebody, drumming their fingers on the window or kind of like messing with me, but I could see the silhouette of the tree branch, and it was a bare tree branch, or at least in the silhouette there were no trees or no leaves. And yeah, I just remember being scared shitless, and that it was one of those memories that stuck with me for a long time, and I would have nightmares about it when I was a kid. And so, in my early 20s, I was like, I'm going to take that memory and turn it into this story about this tree, except the tree really is alive, and it's like tries to kill a kid who's like living in this like trailer park.
Yep.
And I was like, man, like we could do something with that, because I have this like visceral fear from being a kid of those like the creepy tree branches on the window. So absolutely, I'm all in. Let's tell some kind of a creepy story about trees. But it was like we started brainstorming about it, and it's like, I don't know, do we want to do like, I don't know, what are we doing here? Like trees that come alive? Like I feel like people are just going to think it's like Groot or something from like the galaxy, And I think the most obvious idea is, something to do with Arbor Day itself, like planting trees. So like, what do you do on Arbor Day? You plant trees. Well, how could that possibly go wrong? How could planting trees go wrong?
Right.
And like any good story, like and I mentioned this before on the podcast, where one of my favorite books of all time is Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. I think it was just in our storytelling tips with Uncle Hefe episode that I mentioned this, where and maybe I'm not quoting the story properly, but the sort of backstory behind this novel, which is about firefighters who seek out and burn banned books in this sort of horrific future. And the origin of it was Ray Bradbury randomly picking a word from the dictionary, pointing at fireman, and then thinking, okay, I'm gonna write a short story about this. What do firemen do? They put out fires. But then you got to put that on its head. Like, what's the twist? Well, what if it was firemen who started fires? And okay, so what are they burning? Do they just burn houses? And he's like, no, like, what if they burned books? And that became the seed of his idea, and he wrote the whole novel in like a week and a half. It's just speed typing it on an old manual typewriter that he was renting by the hour at the library.
I did not know that part, but that's interesting.
That's true. He was like putting dimes in the machine to like let him type on it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, so we're talking about a horror story. It happens on Arbor Day where they plant trees. So like, what's the opposite of that? What about cutting down trees? And then it just kind of started falling into place. So I'll stop here. But obviously you and I brainstormed a little bit ahead of time, but we came up with this really fun idea for an Arbor Day Massacre. And so yeah, I think that's all the intro that we need. Against our typical trend of going on and on before we start the improv, because we're like nervous about kicking into it.
Right.
I think we just go right into it, Mike. So actually, I've been talking a lot. Let me toss you the mic, Mike. And so how are we going to open up a story about cutting down trees on Arbor Day?
Well, I think one of the things, like the easiest solution for a horror movie involving Arbor Day would be, lumberjacks. I mean, what do lumberjacks use? Chainsaws, axes, like visceral implements of doom. Like, I think we can play with that. So I want to start off with a logging company cutting down, whatever, for whatever reason, like they're cutting down this grove of trees or this section of a forest or whatever, and some bad shit's gonna happen. So we'll start off with I don't know, where do you want to set this? Like California or something? Because I know they got a lot of deforesting issues over there.
Yes, I actually had the same thought before we started when I was doing my notes today. Again, I was looking up the dates, when Arbor Day happens, and I was thinking the same thing. Like, where is there a lot of logging? And I'm thinking the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, Oregon. At least in my limited knowledge of the industry, somebody can leave a comment on the podcast, please. We need more of them, and tell us how we're wrong about the logging industry.
Right.
But I was thinking Northern California, like where not the redwood forest, because I don't want to mess with redwoods. It might be a bridge too far on Arbor Day, but
right.
But it kind of synced up well as I'm looking up the dates for the different Arbor Days. Okay, I looked up California, and it happens on March 7th. But actually, they do a whole week in California. It's not just Arbor Day; it's Arbor Week, and it's always March 7th to March 14th. And I thought, okay, that gives us some leeway, because I was a little bit nervous that we're trying to plan the Arbor Day Massacre, and it's like we might get stuck with it has to happen on this particular day, and like if Arbor Day happens on like a Sunday or something, then I don't know that there would be like loggers, like lumberjacks who were like working on a Sunday. So yeah,
right. I feel like the union would have something to say about that.
Exactly right. So let's just put it in California because it gives us some wiggle room. And I think you're exactly right. We have to have some special grove or area of trees that these lumberjacks are threatening this area, like they're close right up to it, and and again we brainstorm some of this ahead of time. So it would be so cool if, for the conflict at the beginning, we got to have some kind of protesters, somebody, some group of people who doesn't want them to cut down these particular trees. There's some, I don't know, special species or something. But, so then you get this classic standoff between industrial business and, hippie environmentalism, which, as kids of the 80s and 90s growing up in the VHS era, especially in the 90s, I feel like, we grew up with like Captain Planet and Fern Gully and Medicine
Man. I was just going to say.
We talked about this a little bit.
Say that.
We talked about this a little bit in our Harry and the Hendersons 2 episode, where it's like, the lost art of the environmental thriller, Yeah,
exactly. But that was such a thing. Like, it was the 90s was the return of the hippie. It's like, granted, hippies didn't go away, but it's like, 60s and 70s is usually when you think of hippies. But in the 90s, we brought back fucking Woodstock. Granted, it failed the second time, but, the first time Woodstock came back was at 94, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay. The 99 Woodstock, less said the better.
Yep.
But it was like we brought back that shit. Everyone, I remember going to high school in the 90s, and it was like people were wearing fucking tie-dye and Grateful Dead and Led Zeppelin t-shirts, and everyone was listening to like jam bands and shit. Like, the fucking hippie movement was kind of back in the 90s. So I feel like if we're setting that, like, we should set this like this starting point, at least in the 90s, during that environmentalist, like, resurgence or like boom, because we were all conditioned watching, like you said, Captain Planet, and there was like the Toxic Crusaders and shit. Like, hell, even the Ninja Turtles like had environmentalism baked into its DNA. So like, I feel like that was just something we were spoon-fed in the 90s as kids. So, you would definitely have a group of hippies being like, no, man, don't cut the trees down. We need them to breathe. We would have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned, the hippie revival in the 90s. And yeah, absolutely that. The high school that I went to, LaSalle Senior High School in Niagara Falls, it doesn't exist anymore. They tore it down, including the murals that I painted on the wall. Yeah, there's a Walmart there. Yeah. But our mascot and the school colors were terrible. The mascot was a clipper ship. Because of the I don't even know who the fuck LaSalle or whatever the fuck the guy's name is that the school was named after. Like, nobody gave a shit about the French explorer who explored the Great Lakes in his like wooden clipper ship. Like, no one cared. But we were
right.
So we were the LaSalle Explorers, and our mascot was literally a boat, and the colors were brown and yellow. Fucking shit and piss. It was official school policy that every senior class would vote on what their senior colors and senior mascot were going to be. So yeah, while the sports teams might be forced to wear, shit and piss colored uniforms, at least we could get our own colors when it came to our graduating cap and gowns and decorations and things like that. And my graduating class of 1998, we voted on purple and silver, which is perfect for me because I bought a class ring that was purple and silver because I don't like yellow gold, and our birthstone is amethyst, which is purple. So boom, it was perfect for me. And then the mascot, instead of the clipper ship, was the fucking Grateful Dead bear.
Of course it was. It was the 90s.
Exactly. Yeah, so as we're talking about this, you mentioned Woodstock 94. I just looked it up, and yeah, it's perfect because in 1994, March 7th, the start of Arbor Day in California, or Arbor Week, but it was Monday, March 7th. And so I'm like, a Monday is a perfect day to kick off a story about industrialism. Like, of course, they're going to, start Monday morning with a cup of coffee and cutting down some centuries-old trees because fuck them.
Because profit, that's why. Okay, yeah. So let's start this movie in the 90s. We'll kind of do let's do like a Vangabus style thing where it's like we start in the past and then we jump forward to like present day. I feel like I like when we do that with these stories. So instead of like trying to make it all take place in the 90s, because then we're going to have to make sure we're being period appropriate. And sometimes that's a little hard when you're, moving on the fly.
Yeah. And I love the opportunity for like a really cool cold open. I love a movie like Scream, right? I love a movie that opens with a perfect little mini movie. So yeah, that's definitely the way to go.
I'll be honest, when it comes to horror movies and like thrillers, give me a cold opening. Like, give me something where it's like we just open on a scene, some shit happens, and then we get our title card, and it's like, all right, we kind of know what we're in for. It's kind of like having a little aperitif before the meal, It's like it gets you in the mood, it gets you ready for what you're about to see. So I love a good cold opening. So yeah, let's start in the 90s. I'm picturing like just boom, open up on a forest, big fucking forest. We panning across, like you get the opening credits, as we're panning across the tree line, and then boom, we see like this big logging operation, and they're at a standstill. Like there's some trees are cut down, but they're like into the forest. We see like this big fucking section of huge trees, and like they're right outside that, and we have like the foreman, like on a walkie-talkie, like, I don't care what you do, like get somebody down here, and like pan over, and we see a bunch of like kumbaya style hippies like chaining themselves to all the big trees, like rocking back and forth, arm in arm, like like together we'll stand, that whole thing, like just total hippie flower power shit. All the lumberjacks sitting around like smoking, just watching them, just like whatever, like I'm still getting paid, this is a union gig, and have like the foreman just losing his shit, like talking to somebody. So maybe he's like trying to get the authorities there to like remove, like they have the right to deforest this area, and these hippies stopped him, so let's get the cops there, let's get the authorities there and get them the fuck out. So while this is going on, let's introduce the character of our lumberjack, of our psychopath for the story. We gotta come up with a name for him. We can't just call him the lumberjack.
Yeah, I mean, I think lumberjack, all I think is like, stereotypical big giant dude. I think of a big barrel-chested, big brown, like thick curly beard, and like this is very specific, but like how Robin Williams was really hairy, like his hair was like down his fingers, like that,
just a like fucking I 100% agree with you. In fact, the thing I immediately picture when I think of lumberjacks is the big dude who chases Pee-wee in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yes,
he's with what is it, Flo? I forget the the waitress, and they go and watch the sunrise, and then her boyfriend's like, "Oh, come here, you!" Like, I always picture a guy like that, like fucking barrel chested, little bit of a beer gut, huge ape like arms, just
perfect,
big motherfucker.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, and he's just gonna have a real simple kind of a name. He can't have,
he's got to have a 1-syllable name.
Oh yeah, and it's not like these big tough guys like back when we did the Bad Rubbish episode, and I was like, all the big tough guys were named like Brock and Dutch and shit like that. Like no, this is the kind of guy who was raised by a guy that he's like, no son of mine's gonna be named anything but John or Eddie.
Yeah, exactly. John or Eddie. Oh my god. Yeah, no, dude, we should use both. His first name is John, his middle name is Eddie. We got to figure out some kind of funny last name. We don't need to do it here, but eventually we can come up with like the like maybe we're talking about what happens here. It'd be like John Eddie, I don't know, Finster or something, just some random weird last name.
Well, we're describing how this guy looks, and it's like I'm trying to think. Okay, we're talking about like a horror story, like we're leaning into like, okay, so this is like slasher territory. There's got to be a cool like slasher name, like I mean, sure, there's just Jason Voorhees, but then there's other kinds of cool, cool killer names like Ghostface and stuff. So I'm like, we could just call him like the Lumberjack. But I mean, I'd have to Google it, but I'm sure there's probably some movie out there already that's got a lumberjack killer. Probably, I don't know.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't care. I did look up Arbor Day like pop culture movies and stuff. I'll mention it at the end if there's time. But like, there was like a Arbor Day like a short film that is on IMDb that was a horror film, but like whatever, who cares? But anyway, so I think of this big bearded burly guy, and exactly just that. I just said it because I'm like, what if his name is just Burly John?
Burly John, the Murder Jack.
Exactly, the Murder Jack. Fuck yeah, dude. All right. So Burly John, the Murder Jack. Okay. I think I have an idea for last name. Let me jump in. Let me jump back into the scene because you were talking about like the foreman shows up and he's complaining about the hippies. So like let's frame it like this. So yeah, like let's we see like the hippies and they're singing like Kumbaya or some kind of bullshit. They got like tambourines and whatever. Like they're like cosplaying as 60s hippies, but they're 1994 hippies.
Yes, exactly. I was friends with people like this.
I know it's like they're like the flower children of the 90s, but at the same time it's like they're getting the fashion all mixed up. Like they're wearing like 70s style like lapels and bell bottoms, but like 60s style like Little John Lennon glasses or some shit, whatever. Or hell, maybe the glasses are a 70s era because I'm mixing my own history up. But whatever. But then we cut to like let's have like a police like SUV, like one of these police cars that you'd see that would be out on some country road, like out in the forest. They pulls up and some guy jumps out, and he clearly works for the logging company. He's this foreman you mentioned, and he's on his cell phone, and he's just like, yeah, these goddamn hippies, like they're out here like chained to the tree. They don't want us to cut down some kind of like, I don't know, special frickin' elm tree or something. Like I don't know what the hell their story is. They're just trees, whatever. He's just kind of like he's bitching on the phone to like some company exec, and then like the cops get out of the vehicle too, like they drove up there with him, and he's on the phone saying like, yeah, don't worry boss, like I already got the cops out here, they're gonna go read these guys the riot act. Hello, goddamn, no fucking signal up here in the middle of goddamn fucking nowhere.
Well, especially in 1994 too. Like there would be no fucking towers.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, and of course you'd have to have like the big like the big
the Zach Morris phone.
Exactly. I was trying to think what's that character's name? The Zack Attack, right?
you know what it would be, because he'd be getting out of a fucking SUV or something. It would be like my grandmother had one of these because she was like this big real estate agent in Niagara Falls. Like she fucking knew everybody. She had a car phone. It was one of the first people I knew who had a car phone. And it was one of those fucking big ass monster car phones where you had the antenna like slapped on your roof.
Oh yeah.
So she had like the big like thick gray antenna, and then she had the giant like center console car phone where it was just, it looked like one of those remotes that, remember the remotes that were on a cord? cord.
Yeah, the little twisty cords. Yeah,
it looked like one of those. It was like this giant brick that she would use. So he would be on something like that, like, he'd be talking it on his car phone, and then be like, "Oh, damn it! Like, they never get a signal out here," and just like flip it out.
Yeah. Oh, they'd be perfect. Yeah, and yeah. Okay, so let's not have him drive like with the cops. Like, yeah, the cop pulls up. He pulls up like behind him. He's got, and you made me think of the '90s. Oh yeah, it's the '90s. And my dad used to drive a Chevy Suburban, like before SUVs really were a thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of like it was the big truck version of like a station wagon.
Yep.
So that'd be perfect, right? So he drives up in his like Chevy Suburban with the cops, and he jumps out. He's bitching, and he loses the cell signal, and he's bitching about the technology. He can't call the boss, and then he like looks around and he sees the lumberjacks are they're standing around like drinking coffee, and it's like they're not at this area yet where the hippies are. The hippies are kind of like up the hill a little bit, and he walks over to the lumberjacks and he's like, and like, what the horse shit are you guys doing standing around doing nothing? We still got like 5 tree lines to go. I don't know logging terms. I'm just making shit up, but it's like whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then one of the dudes, not Burley John, but one of the dudes can just be like, I don't know, boss, like we had and it's some big vehicle. Again, I don't know logging shit. I probably should look that up instead of the history of Arbor Day, but whatever. Like he's got some kind of big logging vehicle. He's like, I don't know. He's like, the auto saw like it just died. We can't get it to kick on. The battery must be dead or something. And of course the boss man is just like, good God damn it. And he like smashes his big cell phone on the ground. And then he's just like, oh shit, God damn it. Now he's even more mad because it's like $4,000. So he just broke on the ground. I guess he's pissed off. And then, and maybe he just starts ranting and raving while the lumberjacks are all kind of looking at each other like, what the fuck is with this guy? And the foreman's yelling, and he's like, of all the fucking days, like, the fucking hippies and there's no, I can't fucking call it in, and the fucking machine is broken, and the new guy, the fucking new guy, where's the new guy? He's starting today. Shit. And he's like, you new guy, what's your name? And some dude, like some skinny, scrawny looking dude runs up, and he's like, I'm Leland, sir. Yeah. and just like,
Leland.
And of course the foreman's just kind of like, Lionel, cool, all right, hey Lionel, like get to work, figure out how to fix this machine. And he's just like, I don't even know what this machine is, sir. But then the other lumberjack, the one who told him the machine wasn't working, he's like, all right, it's cool, new guy, like I'll show you around. And then we just kind of like, the camera kind of follows him back over to where the lumberjacks are, and he starts introducing them around, like, all right, Leland, this here's Max, and this here's Mickey, and this big guy right here, that's John Burling, but all of us, we just call him Burly John. And then of course Leland just like stares up at him, it's like it's just like,
I'm picturing like that Bugs Bunny moment where he sees Gossamer, he like turns around and looks up, and there's just a giant red like monolith of a person behind him.
Exactly, right. And then you expect big Burly John, like he's going to be like this big grunting tough guy, but and I think that's maybe exactly what we can do at first. He just kind of looks down at Leland, he just kind of grunts and nods a little bit, and sips his coffee, and he like looks back over to where the hippies are.
Real quick, when he sips his coffee, like of course they're gonna have those little styrofoam cups because it's the 90s, styrofoam was still everywhere. But this is what I'm picturing, like it's the standard styrofoam cup that we've all drank coffee out of, but in Burly John's hand it looks like he's got like a dainty little toy cup. Like he's just like, I want that visual of like he looks up and he's like, nods, kind of grunts, nods, and takes this very dainty sip with his pinky out, like with this tiny ass cup. Yeah. But it's just because he's so fucking huge.
Exactly. It's like a little Dixie cup. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then he's just like staring at these hippies, and then he maybe he turns and he like he puts the lid back on his coffee furnace and like puts it in the lunch pail, and he rolls his sleeves up and he hefts his big axe and he puts it on his shoulder, and he says something like, sometimes you just got to take care of it yourself. And he just like walks off in the woods, and
Yep.
And the new guy, Leland, the new guy, they're just like, where is he going? And it's like, oh, don't worry about John, like he'll take care of business. And it's like, okay, like where the fuck's he going? But again, we're trying to like lay the scene.
we should have it like, okay, so have Leland being shown around, all that stuff that we were talking about, but have like we could hear the foreman still yelling and screaming in the background, like, damn it, we got to get the fucking authorities over there, we got to arrest them, we can't do our job until they're gone, like, so it's freaking out, and have like that in the background while Leland's being introduced around, and John do his little coffee sip and kind of like grunt and look over his shoulder back at the foreman, like throwing like a Mr. Spacely style temper tantrum, like jumping up and down, stomping, you know, like losing his shit, and have John just, he just puts his coffee away, hefts his axe, like you said, and starts lumbering away, and have Leland do the thing where you said, well, like, where's he going? And have the guy, what was the guy showing him around? What was his name?
I didn't name the other guy, but let's just call him, I don't know, David or something.
Okay, so we'll have David just looks over and he looks back at the foreman, looks back at John, looks down, and Leland's like, don't worry. John knows what he's doing, you know, and he walks off, like he's off to go talk to the hippies. Like, sometimes you got to do it yourself, and just kind of wanders off.
Oh, I'm sorry. As soon as I said David, and then you started like doing the dude's voice, I just immediately pictured this is Keith David in a cameo role. Right. Yes.
Fuck yes. Anytime you can get Keith David in a movie, it's fantastic.
Hell yeah. Even if he's just there for like a scene or two, like whatever, we gotta have him in there. He's the perfect guy because he's gonna put that like big gap tooth smile on. He's gonna look at where John's walking off, like, don't worry, John's gonna take care of business. And it's like I can hear him say it in my head.
Side note, Keith David. Side note. I will never forget. The first time I saw There's Something About Mary, I was like, what the hell is it? Is that Keith David? Like, I was not expecting him to be the Beans and Franks guy.
Yeah.
And I still, to this day, I fucking love that Spawn and the fucking Beans and Franks guy from There's Something About Mary are the same man. That's fantastic.
So yeah, Burley John just kind of walks off. Like I said, we're just kind of like setting the scene. But I think we should jump over to the hippies. Like, let's actually go back and focus on them. We kind of heard them, you know, before, and then we saw the foreman's reaction. Like, so we cut back over to, you know, these 90s hippies, and you know, maybe by now the cops are up there, and the cops are just kind of like standing there looking at them, you know, kind of like these long suffering, you know, gazes with their hand on their hip, like, oh, okay, yeah, we know. All right, you love the earth, sure. You know, it's like shit, I gotta come up with this. They gotta be chanting something, you know, in a sort of like a hell no, we won't go kind of a way. It's gotta be like you know, Mother Earth says, please save her trees.
Mother Earth says, please save her trees. I love it.
But yeah, you know, so they're just kind of chanting, and they're like, you know, we're not, you know, the police are trying to tell them, you know, yeah, okay, you just calm down, you guys, you know, unchain yourselves, you got to move out of here. Like, you know, the company's got the authority to come through here and log these trees. You know, they got the permits, and they're like, we're not going anywhere until you get all these evil machines and these brainless axe wielding oafs out of here. You know,
right?
Yeah, and it's like I'm not sure where to cut exactly after this, because I feel like, again, this is a cold open. We can't spend like a lot of time on it, but like, you know, we've met John, and now we've seen the hippies. You know, did they think they're the hippies? Like, should we just have, you know, does John, I don't know, what does he do? Does he circle around to him, or, you know, do hell, we could maybe even just do like a little passage of time moment where it's like, you know, the lumberjacks are all sitting around, you know, doing nothing. The foreman's, you know, bitching about all the money they're losing every minute that goes by. They're not cutting down a tree and trying to get someone up there to get, like, figure out how to fix the, you know, the auto saw machine or whatever the fuck. And, you know, next thing you know, it's like, you know, the sun's going down or something.
Yeah, I think that this should be one of those things where it's like, you know, the hippies are refusing to move. They're chained to the trees. The cops are telling them, like, you got to unlock these, you know, you're going to be going to jail, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, you know, it's a worthy cause, like, just won't budge. Like, in other words, they're not leaving unless you physically remove them. So now the cops are going to be like, all right, like, we got to get some bolt cutters. Like, let's get that, you know, we can have that whole thing of like, just they're taking their time getting things moving. And in the meantime, you should have like John go over and talk to him, and maybe like he tries to talk to like one of the women that are tied up to the or chained up to the trees, and be like, what are you doing here? Like, you gotta go. Like, and it's just like very, very simplistic, and have her be like, no, we'll never stop fighting for Mother Earth. And he's just like, and like walks away. And then like maybe have like we should have some hippies that are in like still in the forest, like maybe they're like they're just fucking smoking up back there or something. Just like, it's not all of them chained to the trees. Maybe there are other people like, oh, dude, this is what we should do. We should have somebody in the forest, like some hippies in the forest with like an old school RCA video camera. So like they're recording this whole thing. Like, yeah, man, like we're going to make sure that if they try anything crazy, we'll get them on video and then we'll show the world. Like that whole thing, like the cops aren't going to hurt our friends. The lumberjacks aren't going to hurt our friends, yada, yada, yada. So have them, of course, they're fucking hippies, so they're gonna be smoking up. So have them smoking, and have John come and talk to them. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so something's coming together. So okay, I like this idea. Of course they're smoking weed. Of course they are, right? So there's like there's this grove of trees here. So we never really explained, like, well, why is it special? Like, why do the hippies care? So what if it's that these trees, they're just like the regular trees that grow in the area. I don't know what grows in Northern California outside of redwoods, so I'm just going to say elm, right? Elm trees grow lots of places, right? So there's just these regular trees, but for some reason in this one area, the trees are just fucking huge. They're just super tall. Like they stick out above, the top of the forest, the canopy, and even though they're kind of pretty deep in the forest, that's kind of how people know about it. There's just like this one weird place where all the trees are really big. And so that just gives us an excuse to have the hippies go to this particular place. So John just walks off into the woods, and I'm not sure if he was like specifically going to find or talk to anybody, but he comes across, one or two hippies. And yeah, like you said, with the video cameras, perfect. And what they're doing, or like to your point, they're like, oh man, we're gonna catch them all on camera when if the cops try and do anything, like we can videotape it from back here in the trees. But they're just kind of like high-fiving each other, being kind of dumb, and then they turn around and they're just like, whoa, bro, holy shit, check this out. And they like move a bush, and behind this bush is a huge swath, like a patch of cannabis plants, fucking marijuana plants.
Okay.
But they're huge, like super tall, like, they're growing in the wild, naturally, not cultivated by humans, in this grove where for whatever reason the trees are fucking big. And these guys are just starry-eyed, like, agog, like, oh my God, dude, it's the mother lode. They're just they're like freaking out. And so maybe John just kind of walks up and is like, what's going on? And they're startled, like, oh shit, like where'd you come from? And and he could just ask him, maybe he literally just doesn't know like what's going on. He's like, what is this? And one of the hippie dudes, like, he probably should be nervous or afraid or whatever. Like the lumberjack is the bad guy, but it's like he can't help himself, and he's like, oh my God, you know what this is? And he's and he's just kind of explaining it, to John, but also, to the audience, right? Like,
to the audience,
yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, oh man, like this, this is the most amazing, like, pot I've ever seen. Oh my God, like, look at these like crystally buds. They're like, like, oh, can't you smell it? Whatever,
Look how sticky it is.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, oh, the crystals, they're like sugar,
Well, yeah, it should be like, we should have, like I said, with John going and talking to the hippies, and we see him talking to the people chained up, and he's not getting anywhere. We should pan over and see like the hippies in the woods with the RCA camera and all that, like, we're gonna get them. Like if they do anything, we'll have them. Then we'll be able to prove that prove that they're asshole, whatever. Like, prove that they're the villains, kind of. But then to your point, they discover the pot, so now they're distracted, so they're not paying attention. They're over there looking at the pot. Then we cut back to John, and he looks over, and maybe he sees the fucking camcorder like on a tripod in the bushes aimed at them, and he's like, So we can show that John he may be a big hulking monster of a man, but he's observant. He's paying attention to everything around him. He's there. You know, he might not be the smartest man, but he's paying attention.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we do, to your point, like we have John startle them. He comes up, he's like, "What's going on over here?" And they're like, "Oh crap!" You know, like, where'd you come from? Like, that's the other thing that would be funny, is like showing that he can move quietly, that giant frame. You know. So he's like, you know, "Where'd you come from?" And then have him just be like, "Over there," you know, just like real calm, you know. And they're like,
I like that everything he says is just very like obvious, like, you know, it's like, yeah, I was just right over there.
I was over there. Like, what's all this now? You know, it's just like,
yeah, I like that. I like that, the way he talks. So
sorry.
Okay.
It's funny to me.
No. Okay. So as we're talking, it's like my brain is spinning. Okay. So the big trees, the big weed. There's got to be something special about, you know, this place. There's got to be something about the ground here, something that's getting into these plants. And so then therefore, like, the plants, there's something special or spooky or supernatural about it, right? So I kind of feel like I want to change a few little details to kind of make the timeline work. Let's do this. Like, let's have the hippies like smoke this weed, but then it like does something crazy to them, right? Like it's like some kind of like, it's supernatural weed. Like it makes them go nuts, or like it turns them into monsters, right? So let me back up just a little bit. So yeah, so we have John going. He goes and he checks them out. But instead of the hippies that are in the woods with the camcorder, the two of them, instead of them just discovering the weed, it's more that like the one guy has the camera, and then behind him there's a guy who's he's like bagging up weed and like rolling joints. And again, I just like with logging, like I don't really, you know, smoke weed, you know, so it's like I don't know how you process like a fresh plant growing in the ground to something you can smoke.
I know you have to dry it.
Okay. So I feel like, you know, like my point is that like I want the hippies to smoke this particular weed. So there can even be an exchange of dialogue between them where, you know, the one dude's like, you know, like, "Hurry up, man!" Like, you know, like they're bagging up the weed or something. And it's like, even though they're out there protesting, cutting down the trees, like, what if it's almost like a front, when actually what it was is that they came up here to protest the trees. They got here like, you know, they got here like the day before or something, and they discovered this big patch of weed, and they were just like, "Oh my God, like fucking super weed." So they start like taking it, and they're, you know, they're processing it because they want to smoke it. Like, "Hurry up, you know, we got to try this stuff out." And so already, like, the dude is like, "Oh man, like I got to get some more of this stuff." And you know, the guy with the camera is like, "Dude, like we already got a lot of it. Like, you know, we've all got our like victory joints like ready to go for later on when those like lumberjack dickheads get out of here. Like, we're gonna smoke up this, like, you know, this fucking like super weed all together, and it's gonna be fucking great, dude. We'll be in a circle around the tree, and like, you know, Mother Nature's gonna get high with us, you know." So
you know, oh, dude, hold, okay. One more little wrinkle to add. I know we're like only in the cold opening here, but one more wrinkle to add is this should be like the two of these two hippies, their conversation before John comes up should tell us everything we need to know. That like they're not doing this because they care about Mother Earth. They're not doing, and this makes it so much funnier being 90s hippies because it fucking works perfectly. They don't actually care about Mother Earth. They're there protesting because they're like, "Holy shit, we found the fucking crop to end all crops, and they're about to chop our shit down."
Yeah, okay.
So no, they've like, and maybe like the dude is like the one guy's bagging shit up, and he's like, "What are you doing, man?" He's like, "Hey, if they cut this place down, you know what's gonna happen to our crop, man. Like, we gotta have all this set aside." And it's like it's gotta have time to cure, or whatever, you know, whatever. Like, he's chopping it down, and while that's happening, like we could even like say like, you know, the whole reason for this fucking protest, man, is so they don't find our stash. Like, just kind of show that, yeah, they're not altruistic. They're doing it for their fucking weed, you know, which again gives it's a horror movie. So when you do bad things happen to you. So we're following that formula. So while they're doing that, like you got the one dude, with the man in the camera. We do the whole thing where Burly John notices the camera. We have the back and forth with the two hippies. We explain the whole thing of like, yeah, they're not actually doing it because they care. They're doing it so the authorities don't find their fucking stash that they discovered maybe like a week ago or something. And they could even say that like, we just fucking discovered this. We can't let them have it. And then that's when John comes up. Like you got like the hippie with like maybe he's got like he's just got a pocket knife. He's like sawing through the stem of this massive pot plant, and he's got like putting it in like a like a gunny sack, like a potato sack, and shoving it in this like burlap bag. And then you hear, like, what's going on here? What's all this? Then like he looks up and like, oh shit.
Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah. Sorry,
but John's just kind of like leaning on a tree looking at him, and he's like clearly not aggressive. So like, oh man, like, are you cool? Like, if you're cool, I got something to explain to you. And like he goes on and explains the whole like how amazing this crop is, blah 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 blah. We've been curing it. We can't wait to smoke it. After you guys leave, we're gonna smoke it. You want to join us, man? You want to have a mind-bending experience? Like,
yes,
that
okay,
whole
perfect.
thing. Like the hippie gets super into it because it's like, oh shit, one of the lumberjacks, and he's not fighting us.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. And I think you figured out the timeline issue I was trying to deal with like, I want them to smoke this weed, but of course they need time for it. But like, again, what I'm thinking, if this is some kind of like, it's weird supernatural weed, they can't have smoked it already. It has to be this thing where they're like, they found it, they were like, curing it, drying it, whatever, getting it ready. It was finally ready, but it was like, shit, it was Monday morning already. The loggers are coming. So, okay, everyone like, take the fucking like, mega Cheech and Chong joint, and like, we'll all smoke our victory, toke at the end of the day. And then, then we'll have our private little, crop. But of course, the scared Weasley guy is just like, crop schmop. Like, I'm taking some of these home because, if we lose this and they, they wipe this place out, like, I'm not losing, the fucking like mega weed. And so they're kind of arguing, like you said, John comes up, they explain it to him. So right here and then he's like, again, he's like, you want to do it with us, and like, you want to smoke with us? And then John's just kind of like staring at him, not saying anything, like, kind of, quizzical, but, doubtful or whatever. And and the one dude, I gotta name him something because he keeps saying like, the fucking one dude, whatever. It's fucking Tom and Jerry, right? So fucking Tom's got the camera, and Jerry's like, cutting down the trees, and Hank is howling because it's dinner time in the background. But and so Jerry's like, he's like, man, we were gonna smoke these later, like our victory, tokes, but like, dude, I got an extra one. Like, let's just smoke it now. The others they'll never know. Like that, like we're hiding back here. Like, come on, man, you want to get in on this? And Jerry lights it up, and he like takes a big old puff off of it, and he like, like a pro, and he just, he holds it in, and he hands it over to Tom. Tom does the same thing, like, big toke. His chest is out because he's holding it in, and he holds the joint up, to John, and it's like that thing of like, you want to hit this, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then it's like you see John look at that joint, and like the camera focuses on it. So, but let's cut it right there, because we're kind of like trying to figure out what's going on, like the weed. There's something going on with the weed, but like for the sake of the movie we're laying out in our cold open, we're just going to cut it right there, and then let's cut back out to cut back out to like probably the foreman, right? Let's cut back or the lumberjacks. Like what are they doing?
So okay, so here, So I like the idea of doing the focal shift like that, where we see the joy, because it's almost like those old like drug commercials are like, what are you gonna do? Like they're just like handing it out to the screen, and maybe we see like John's like big fucking massive hand like come up into frame, like he's reaching for it, and then we cut. So I want to go like back to the foreman, have him like bitching out the cops. He's flipping out, saying like, we got to get them out of here. Like, we have every right to be here. They're stopping our operation. It's fucking Monday morning. It's already noon, for crying out loud. We were supposed to start 6 hours ago. Like, and he's just like losing his shit, right? So while he's doing that, like yelling at the cops, and they're just basically like, hey, we can't do shit. Like, they have the right to protest or whatever. Like, we got to wait for the guys with the bolt cutters to get down here to like cut the chains, whatever it is. I mean, granted, it's a logging company. I'm sure they would have something, but whatever. There's some reason why they haven't gotten the hippies freed yet. But while they're talking, we should hear like screaming from like down the way. So the cops and the foreman turn and look, and like we see the hippies like panicking, trying to unchain themselves. And at the end of the row of trees, we just see John standing there, like maybe he's like, wiping one finger under his nose, like a big snort, but he's covered in blood, and like there's a dead hippie like hanging over his chain, missing his head, while everyone's screaming. And then John just like, he kind of hefts his axe in his hands, looks at the next guy, shrugs his shoulders, and just fucking chops him right in the face, like splitting his head in half.
Nice.
And they're just like, ah, like, and he's getting spattered with blood. The cops freak out. Everyone's freaking out. The lumberjacks are all running like, holy shit, John's gone mad. Like they're all running away. Like fucking Leland, poor Leland gets trampled.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just like showing chaos. And again, in the midst of all this chaos, John's just calmly walking down the row of hippies, one after the next, taking them out, like just axe to the head, and the cops run up and maybe they shoot him several times, like, stop or I'll shoot, and John doesn't even pay any attention. He just, again, shrugs, hefts his axe, ready to swing again. Then boom, 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 like John gets hit and he goes down. There's like maybe like two hippies left. They get spattered with John's blood, like, oh my god, help me. And they're like crying, freaking out. We could like transition, show the gun pointed at the screen with the smoke coming up, and then focusing on the young cop who's terrified, like, oh my god, is he dead? And have the foreman being like, what the hell happened? Like, what's going on here? Like, so he cuts in frame, like, freaking out, like, you killed one of my men. He's like, he was crazy. And then we look over and John's gone. Like, he pulled a total fucking Jason Voorhees. Like, broad daylight, everyone around, no one saw because of the chaos. Somehow he got out of there. Where the fuck did he go? Yeah. And then like we have the, like, we hear like a narrator voice come in and be like, and that's the last time anyone ever heard of the infamous Murder Jack. And then we see like a mouse cursor on the screen and hit pause. And now we're gonna meet our cast of kids, our teenagers, our college students, I should say. We should have the one guy, like our resident like pothead, have him lean back in his chair like a computer chair, like swivel around, be like, I fucking told you guys there was a killer lumberjack. It happened in the fucking 90s, man, right here in California. Oh, that's fucking crazy, man. And like have him pan out to his other friends. And it should be the stereotypical motley crew of, I believe you referred to these people as cause heads, and I fucking love that term.
Well, yeah, it's from when we were brainstorming before we started, I was like, oh yeah, we should, the modern, the people that we're going to focus on should be these like fucking cause heads. Yeah, it's from the PCU, the movie PCU with Jeremy Piven. It was like, like what they call them cause heads because every week they have a new cause. Like this week it's what is it this week? Like vegetarianism.
Yes. And I completely forgot about that terminology because I love PCU, but I don't even remember that line being spoken in the movie. I trust you that it is. It's just been like 30 years since I've seen it. But my God, dude, like when I read that in your note, like, they should just be a bunch of cause heads, I fucking lost it. I'm like, that's beautiful. I love that term.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, exactly. It's like, these, I love this, right? These like, these young college kids who, they love, like, their hobby is like what protest is going on this week, whether it's like a political thing or it's like an animal rights thing or an environmental rights thing. And it's and I'm not saying that they're not genuine in their beliefs, like I'm not discounting anybody who does go and do those things because
not at all.
Protest is really important, but this particular group of people, to them it's like this is how like they get off, like they get all excited, like like, oh, it's fucking like Occupy Saturday or whatever, and it's like they're gonna get out their placards and go get real angry about something and then tweet about it, how a victory for like the common man on like social media later on, but then they're on to like the next thing like tomorrow.
Right. And like, and I'm not trying to turn the podcast into a social commentary, but I think we all know this type of individual. You have the people who truly believe in their cause, truly believe in what they're protesting, and truly, are fighting for something. And that is 100% valid, like 1,000% fucking valid. But then you also have the types of people who are just like, I want to virtue signal online so everyone knows how good I am. So I'm just going to go and join whatever this movement is. And then when they're asked about it, they're like, oh no, It's like, well, what are you protesting then? Like, it's one of those things where, so it's like, there's a definite difference between performative protesting for online and social media views and people who actually believe in the cause. And it's again, the former, the people who believe in the cause, I believe outweigh the latter, but we can't pretend like, those types of people don't exist because they're fucking everywhere on social media these days.
Oh yeah.
You have the people who are just screaming from the rooftops and then changing their cause every fucking other week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think virtue signaling is exactly the right way to explain, like we're talking about here, like worthy causes, but some people just they get all up in arms, but not really for the right reasons. And and of course everybody's an individual. So as we kind of build our cast here, not that the cold open is over, we're going to shift. We're going to build our cast, and of course there's going to be probably at least one of them who really is just genuine, maybe genuine, but overwhelmed by like how many different things there are to like get all up in arms about in the 2020s. Like holy shit, there's so many things to get angry about. And
I personally know people like that who care about like literally like that, like that's their life, is they care about all the crazy shit that's going on, and they're trying their best to make a difference. But it's again, their focus is split because there's so many things that are wrong right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, so that's a legit thing that happens. Like even to the people with the best of intentions, it's hard to focus because you got like 40 things every day that's wrong. It's like,
I know, right?
I mean, we all know it. Just turn on the fucking TV or open your fucking, Yahoo News or whatever you get. Like, you're going to see shit all over the place. So anyway, I think that we will have some people like that are legit, like, actual, like, good intentioned protesters, and maybe one or two that are just doing it for the views.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're all kind of in it for whatever their own reasons are, whether they're genuine or not. But yeah, I think that's. But yeah, whatever. This is the group we're talking about. So. Okay, so before we started, again, we were brainstorming ahead of time, and we decided this time we were like, okay, let's just write down a bunch of names so that we just have names handy. Like we didn't, decide what to do with the names or, anything. It was just write a bunch of names down that aren't the typical, like, Billy, Sam, and Josh and Mike and Tommy that we always use.
Well, and that's the thing. When we were joking about, like, the names we always use, and we're like, we need to stop using Billy all the time. We need to stop using Jack all the time. So yeah, I think that it makes sense to just come up with a list of names. Like I said, I want to use the name Ernest somewhere. I know that was the top of my list. Mm-hmm. I think the guy that we were, watching the video with, the guy who's like, I told you, man, like, I feel like having a stoner named Ernie is just kind of funny. Plus we used Tom and Jerry. I mean, I know we're not using Bert, but we have Burly John and then Ernie. So it's kind of like Bert and Ernie. We're kind of pulling a Return of the Living Dead here.
Yeah. I mean, let's go for it. Yeah, absolutely. I think Ernie's good. Yeah. And I'm just looking at the names. We talked about, like, okay, there's got to be at least one person who's just like genuine about it, who really does care. And I don't know, but I'm not sure yet, is that like an important character in our group? Like, do we want the leader? Because there's always like a leader in a group of friends, or somebody who kind of the person who's like, hell yeah, now we have a plan, let's go everyone, who kind of calls the shots. Do we want that person to be the person who's genuine and everybody else is kind of a tag along? But I kind of feel like, since we're personifying this group as a bunch of cause heads, I don't really want the genuine one to be the alpha. It's maybe they're one of the tag-alongs because, like, they're just really idealistic.
Yeah, I like the idea of having the actual genuine person being very mousy, because think about it, like most protesters, most people who are a cause head are very loud, they're very brash, they're very in your face. They're the type of person, if you say something like, well, I haven't really had time to look at, like, so you don't fucking care? Like, what the fuck, man? Like, check your privilege. Like, they're that type of person. Like, that's usually these types of people when they're quote unquote a cause head. So I think, like, the genuine person should be very meek and mild and, like, but no, like, but what we really should be focused on, and, like, I feel like that person should be real quiet.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
So let's see. Ernie is just going to be a fucking pothead.
Yeah.
Pothead comic relief.
Well, okay. So looking at the list of names, speaking of pothead, I think we wrote down Kiefer for some reason, like Kiefer Sutherland. So
yes.
and
he's totally a pothead too.
Well, yeah, because his name rhymes with reefer.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Reefer Kiefer.
Reefer Kiefer. There you go. All right. So Reefer Kiefer should be the one who's literally just there because Ernie has weed and he doesn't care about anything else. He's just like, yeah, dude, like, let's go. Woohoo. It's a Black Lives Matter. Wait, what is it this week? Save the whales, whatever. Like, he's just like,
he's like, I don't fucking care. Whatever is gonna get me laid and get me noticed.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man.
So we have Kiefer. Let's have the actual, like, the girl who cares. Let's call her. I liked, you mentioned Valerie earlier, so let's go with Valerie.
Okay, so Valerie, she's so she's sort of the mousy one who like cares. Okay, making a note. Let's go with someone named Meredith, who she hates weed. Like she thinks it's disgusting. Of course, she's a coshead, so she's all like, pro legalization, but she actually just thinks it's disgusting. Like you would think that smoking cigarettes is gross or like binge drinking is gross. Like she just thinks it's, cretins do that and like immature, frat boys do that. Like, but she's there because she really, I don't know how genuine she is, but she's there because she wants to, like, make my voice heard for the cause. Go smoke that over there,
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Okay. Let's see. So we got, we got Ernest or Ernie, Valerie, Kiefer, Meredith. You'd mentioned the name Delia before. I like that one. So let's have another character be Delia. Maybe she's like oh, dude. Okay. I know we had Clayton on the list too. Let's have Clayton and Delia kind of be like the power couple that lead this. They're like maybe they're the upperclassmen, like they're like a year ahead of the rest of the group or something. So they've been to so many causes. And Clayton should be like the artist boyfriend. So he's like the brooding artist type. And he's always making all their signs. And he's like making sure the font is like, oh, I don't do Comic Sans in mine. It's like he's real fucking like he's a prick,
Yeah.
But he's the artist. And clearly he's a cause head. Like he's mainly doing it for the image. Maybe Delia truly believes in it, but he's her boyfriend. So he's just kind of like, yeah, we'll do this. He's just kind of going along with it. I like Clayton and Delia.
I like the idea of the power couple. I think this solves our issue of like, who's kind of the alpha here. Well, both of them are. I think to your point, Delia should be the one who's like the ringleader. She's the true cause head in that she gets real fucking fired up about something for like a week, and then real fucking fired up about the next thing that somebody, is complaining about on TikTok or she sees in the news or whatever. So like, it's like, I'm not saying she doesn't care. She cares, but she's, kind of like ADHD with her, how much she pays attention to like one thing before she's on to the next thing. But she's the one who's always like, come on guys, like protest starts at 9 a.m. Clayton's got the placards and they're all like, the perfect graphic design, on the signs or whatever that Clayton makes. Yep. So between the two of them, it's like, she's like the ringleader and he's the organizer, right? If that makes sense. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
So we got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We need some more, like, I know some of these characters are going to be fodder, but we're definitely going to need some fodder. So we got a bunch of like, I don't know. We got a bunch of unique names. Like we got Ernest, Clayton, Delia, Valerie, Kiefer, Meredith. Let's just go with Nick. I know we had a few 4-letter names on the list. So Nick, we need a character who is going to be like, kind of, he's there, like he's in, he's in the mix, but maybe he's always just trying to get laid or like get free drugs or like he's that guy. It's like, yeah, man, I'll go to your cause. You guys are holding, right? Like, we're gonna smoke a little. Like he's the bum. He's the guy that's always trying to bum smokes off of people. And it's like, hey, there's a single girl over there. I'm gonna go talk to her. Like he's just trying to get laid and get high. Like Nick is a dick. So Nick the dick.
Nick the dick. Oh, I like that. Let me just tweak one thing. Since I already said with Kiefer, so Kiefer's like the real pothead he's just there because Ernest has good weed, but also like I can't help but think of, Because I Got High by Afro Man, where like
Fuck yeah.
that's very much Kiefer. Like he was gonna go to class, but then he got high. He was gonna pay the bills, but then he got high. So Kiefer should be the one who's always broke. He's always bumming. He's bumming weed. He's bumming smokes. He's just like, hey man, can I crash on your couch? Like, where does Kiefer live? No one knows. Like, he doesn't have a job or a family or anything. He's just he's like your typical like white boy stoner in the 90s, but he has like dreads and wears like a knit Rasta hat, even though he's white. He's
Right.
just the very typical like 90s like stoner. But Nick, like you said, I think Nick he's a little bit more savvy. He's there again. Not that I'm sure that he is absolutely down for like legalizing weed and trans rights and all that, whatever they're going for. He's into it, but he's there with this particular group because they're cool and like there's hot girls and like they rally groups of people around and people bring booze and like he's not a bum, but he's just like he's the social guy. Like he wants to go to the party, man. Like I think that's more for him. Like, he's like looking for something for himself. Like, yeah, something for the society, but like at the end of the day, what's Nick getting out of this?
Right. Yeah, Nick is totally self-centered. He is that type of guy. And it's like I feel like everybody knows that type of guy,
Oh yeah, exactly. And again, I mean, he could 100% have these positive political beliefs, but at the same time, he's like, what am I getting on the back end?
Right. I'm gonna do this because I care, but I also want I care for number one first.
Exactly. Right. Okay. So I think we got a pretty good group, 7 people. Anything more than that, it gets a little bit unwieldy. We could throw someone in the mix if we get into the story and we realize like, oh shit, we need like a cannon fodder. Like we could just retroactively go back and plop somebody in. But for right now, like that's good. Okay,
Absolutely.
so this YouTube video, right? So Ernie's watching the YouTube video, and he's basically turning in, like saying, like, "See, I fucking told you guys, there really was like this Arbor Day Massacre, back then." And there's got to be this conversation where, maybe Kiefer's sitting there just like, smoking a bong, and he's like, "Yeah, man, oh, I heard about that shit, man." It's like he's just agreeing with whatever Ernie says, But yeah, like, and
I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep derailing this, but all I can picture now when you're describing Kiefer is, do you remember House Party 2?
Of course,
his
the
roommate,
jam.
But do you remember Jamal?
Hell yeah, dude.
His
with
roommate,
the bean pie.
the white, yes, the fucking white dude with the beanie cap and the dreads. That's now all I'm picturing for Kiefer is Jamal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You nailed it. Right. Yeah.
Oh God.
And so we can just, we can have a conversation. We don't have to lay out all the dialogue right here, but like give the audience a chance to see that like one personality trait that we were just kind of talking about, like have a conversation where everyone kind of says something that's revealing about who they are. Like Meredith's going to kind of like, wrinkle her nose up and kind of, wave the smoke away from her face and like move away from Kiefer, so we kind of pick up on that, whatever. They're going to kind of talk, but the point is that Ernie is going to explain like kind of what just happened. We all just talked about it for a while, so we don't have to repeat everything. But yeah, obviously, like it's what is it? Did we say what year it is? Did I miss that? Like it's like what? It's like modern day now, like 2026.
Yeah, it should be like present day, like 2026. I think. We'll just go with present day.
Okay, yeah. So we can maybe even do like a caption on the screen, like 30 whatever years later, or whatever, present day, and then they're gonna they're just gonna talk about it, like, oh yeah, dude, after that, like after the murders, it was like the press, they were like on their way up the mountain to like cover the protest, and like they got there, they just missed like catching it all on camera, and people like didn't believe it, that it was all one guy or something, whatever. I'm just making this up, but it's like afterwards, like the authorities, like they shut the whole place down. Like they wouldn't let anybody come in. They were investigating, and the logging company, they had to move on, and it was like in all the papers for a while because it happened on Arbor Day. Can you believe it? Like, and this might be the first time in the movie that we mentioned that it was on Arbor Day.
Right.
So it's like it's like you can't believe that there was like a lumberjack who killed a bunch of people protesting cutting down trees, and it happened on Arbor Day. day. Like, you can't even like write a screenplay about that, like whatever. Like, you can't come up with that. It's like truth is stranger than fiction.
It's like we're saying the name without saying the name.
Yeah,
it's like the thing, like, oh, they said the thing, it's that whole thing.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. And then and then afterwards they're like, the cops searched for the murder jack killer, but like they never found him. And it was like it's a mystery. And again, I'm not going to try to do Ernie's voice, but essentially the idea is that the logging company couldn't cut there anymore, and they hell, maybe there was even like stories about how like they could even when they tried to finish getting like close to it, like none of their machinery was working and they eventually just gave up. And there was like a memorial there, and but it was like nobody ever found the lumberjack. But after that, like, people tried to go back up there, and every time somebody would go to that grove, they would just come out screaming. They would come out screaming that somebody was trying to kill them, or they would hear like terrible noises, and like nobody lives close by, but when hikers and whatever would come, it was like they swear they would hear the sound of chopping wood all day long.
Yes.
Just chop, 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 and every once in a while you'd see like a plume of smoke come out from the grove, like somebody was up there. But every time they tried to investigate, nobody ever found anything, and the logging company never went back to log those trees, but somehow they all got cut down anyway. And to this day, there's not one tree in that area where the massacre happened.
I love it. I was just going to say, we have to have like that because the way I'm picturing it is in this forest, we had like a path leading to this grove. So like the lumberjacks were cutting like a swath of trees leading to this big grove of huge trees, like we discussed. And so the forest surrounding that area is still growing. But I picture like this huge, like maybe like a mile or two radius of like where the grove was, and it's just now barren. So it's like there's no trees there whatsoever. There's just stumps of trees, or maybe there ain't even stumps. Maybe there's like holes in the ground where the stumps were yanked up. But like there's this barren grove, but in the center of a forest. Mm-hmm. So like it's not like you're just going to walk up on this giant plot of open land. It's like you walk through, there's foresting, there's old forest and there's new forest that's coming back from where, hey, they cut trees down 30 years ago, but there's some growth there. But then you have this barren grove. And like, just to your point, like when Ernie was telling, like, yeah, they still hear, chopping in the woods to this day type of thing. That could kind of hint at the fact that, the trees, they were cut down, but they have to continually be cut down.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
Maybe something's going on. They keep coming back.
Yeah, or just sometimes just things go back, but like things grow back. But if somebody was cutting them down on purpose, you got to make sure that like nothing else comes back, like it stays gone. No new growth or whatever. So yeah, that's awesome, man. And that just becomes again, these are the characters talking, and there's this sort of, I guess, not an urban legend, a rural legend of the murder jack, like, don't get lost in the woods or the murder jack will find you, and
right.
But it's like, nobody's ever really, been killed. There's no proof of it. It's just like a legend. People get scared when they go in the woods, and like, the machinery wouldn't work, or, they hear the chopping or whatever. Like, it's like people tell and the stories grow over time. And of course, like, that's kind of what the characters are talking about. Somebody else maybe has heard about it. Like, maybe, let's say, maybe Nick. I feel like Nick's the kind of person that would be like, yeah, I'm going to call bullshit. He's like, I've heard those fucking stories. He's like, I grew up in, I don't know, he grew up in the Bay Area, and he's like, yeah, I heard those stories from up north, in the woods, and it was all just just a bunch of nonsense. Like, you go anywhere in the country and there's like urban legends of like creepy people who live in the woods. It's scary tales that grandmas tell their kids, like eat your vegetables, or the boogeyman will get you kind of story,
right.
And of course and of course Ernie's like, nah dude, like, were you watching this? Like, this isn't just some influencer, this is like a documentary on, and he's like, it's on YouTube. He's like, you don't think there's like real shit on YouTube? It's like they're arguing about it, and
of course he would be like, it's on YouTube. I love it.
right? And then, but then, and then, Ernest, he has to say something. He's like, well, I didn't play the whole video, like, but I just wanted you guys, to get the gist of it. But like, check this out too. Did you guys know, like, when the authorities went up there to investigate and they were looking for the lumberjack, they didn't find any trees cut down yet, but they found a whole field of cannabis plants that somebody had just massacred. It was like these huge plants. It was in the news back then that they reported on it, and they thought that maybe there was something going on, that they had stumbled upon some kind of like a drug ring, like they were growing weed or something.
Yeah,
and
maybe that's what the lumberjack was part of.
Yeah, exactly, right. And of course, Kiefer's gonna perk up and be like, they got weed up there,
Right.
Right.
I'm loving where we're going with this, but we should have Valerie make the comment about, like, wait, did you say that the whole area has been, like, that whole grove has been deforested where they were all killed? And have him be like, yeah, man, like, nothing grows up there anymore. There's a huge plot of land. There's no fucking new growth. And have her be like, we should plant some trees there. Like, just kind of throw that little idea out, and have Delia light up and be like, wait, Clayton, when is Arbor Day this year? When is Arbor Day? And have him look it up, like he Google searches it, and she's like, oh my God, this is perfect. So we are going to do an Arbor Day celebration. We are going to reforest the deforested place.
Yes. Yeah.
And she's like all excited because, again, you said Delia, so now I'm picturing Delia Dietz, for Beetlejuice.
Yeah, perfect. I love it. And you went exactly where I was going. That was kind of why I was mentioning it. It was like, yeah, they have to have some, like, they have to a reason to go up there. So of course, suddenly this is going to be their new cause. And yeah, when they look it up, they can be like, when's Arbor Day? Just like, he's like, oh shit, it's tomorrow. And then have Ernest be like, yeah, like they released these videos like in the algorithm, like on holidays. So that's why people watch them. He's like, duh. Like, why else do you think I'm showing you the Arbor Day Massacre? You didn't know it was tomorrow? It's like we're all. It's like you guys are all like into social activism and stuff. Haven't you ever planted a tree on Arbor Day?
Right.
But of course he mentions the weed, right? And this is when Nick should speak up and be like, yeah, we should totally do that. We should go up there and we should all plant trees. But you know what? He mentioned they had all that weed up there. Now that stuff was growing natural. I don't think there was any drug ring up there. That was probably just some nonsense to sell some newspapers. I bet you that stuff just grows naturally up there. So we should take some weed with us too, and we'll go put some weed up there. And of course everyone's like, yeah, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, no way. Like, that's stupid. Like, we'll just go plant some trees. But then of course, he's gonna like, I don't know, maybe he like, the table where they have like the weed and like the papers and whatever, the lighters and stuff laid out. Maybe he just like swipes some seeds or whatever. Again, I don't know how you grow weed, but it's like, something for the camera to see that he's like, well, fuck you guys, I'm gonna plant some weed anyway.
Right, exactly. Yes, you should definitely have like a packet of seeds or something. Like, just because I've seen like the modern day companies selling this stuff. It really is like buying seeds at Walmart. It's just like little packets with different strains. So yeah, he should totally just have like a little baggie that he throws some seeds in and takes off.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. And it's like, we just cut to like the next morning, and there's Delia and with like, an SUV and like somebody else's car, and she's literally got like a clipboard. She's like, all right, cool, Ernie, like, you've got the tree, and like you've got the whatever, I don't know, the audio sound equipment or whatever, like we got to film, because they're not going to just take videos on their cell phones.
You got to
like,
film it.
Yeah, they've got like good gear, so they can make like quality videos. So it's like Ernie's got the gear, and it's like, okay, so what is it, Nick and Kiefer, where's Nick and Kiefer? Whatever, like they're already in the car. Okay, cool, whatever. Clayton, how many trees we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, cool, like let's load them in, guys, like chop, like she's just like the captain of the ship. Everyone like hop in the vehicles and like hit the road.
It should be like, okay, yeah. So I love her being like the leader there. Clayton is obviously the art dude who's like he's making sure they look good on camera. Maybe the reason they're friends with Ernie is, I mean, he is a cause head. He's again, like Valerie, he's maybe a little more real about it. Mm-hmm. But he should also be our tech guy.
Yeah,
like he should be the guy that like knows all this shit. So the whole reason that they want him around is like he handles all their web pages and handles all their coverage. So like, yeah, he might argue with with him on what's real or not. Like, he might be a little out there for them. Like, maybe he's the type of guy that believes in Bigfoot in the group, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry.
So
I'm sorry to interrupt you real quick. You mentioned Clayton's the arty guy. That's perfect. It should be like, Ernie has all the really good equipment, but like when they go to load up, like Clayton comes over and like grabs the camera, and Ernie's like, "Yo, what the fuck? That's my camera." He's like, "Yeah, but like." Obviously, I'm gonna film it. Like, I know how to frame this properly. Trust me. He like just takes it.
Fucking dick. So do we want to just jump right to them getting into the woods? Like, we load up the trucks, and then we see like a passage of time, like maybe a montage of them like driving with some kind of I don't know, some we could do. Trying to think of like a modern song that is constantly played in movies, but whatever, it's not important. We could have some kind of just random jingle playing while we got like the teen road trip up to the forest, and then just boom, we're there. So we could have it like be like a 2-minute sequence.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we spent time with our cold open. We introduced all of our characters. We got to have like a little bit of that conversation has to take a little bit of time. But yeah, I don't think we need to waste any time. It's just load them up. Yeah, like you said, the montage road trip with the soundtrack, and yeah, we know that they're in California somewhere. They mentioned it, but we don't really have to, we don't. It doesn't have to be like, oh shit, like they just happen to go to the university that's like an hour away. Like, what a coincidence that they're so close. Like they can be on the road for a little bit. That's the beauty of a montage. Just like time passes, but you don't exactly know how much. So whatever, they just get there.
Well, we could even have them say like it could be like, when we start that sequence of them loading everything up, maybe they're complaining like, Jesus, Delia, why do we got to do this so fucking early? And have her be like, it's a couple-hour drive. We want to make sure that the light is perfect for when we videotape what we're doing. And like she's got all this like, it has to be perfect. So we could get them there by like midday.
All right, so they're hitting the road. Hang on, there's 7 of them. We talking like, I guess they could all fit into like an SUV. Do you think they're all in like one vehicle, or how many cars are we talking about?
Yeah, they could fit. Well, hold on, no, because we also have the trees. We got the saplings.
Oh, yeah.
So why don't we, hold on a second, this would be funny. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have like, because again, Delia, is the she's the fake out one. She's the one. She's the cause head. I feel like she should have money. Okay. Like she should come from like a background with money. So like it's basically like, yeah, you've never struggled, but you're bitching at everybody else, that type of a thing. Like I feel like she fits that character type. So maybe she has like a really nice SUV. Like a big SUV, and they have everybody load up the saplings into the back, and then her and Clayton pile into it, and they're like, all right, guys, we'll meet you there. Bye. And it's like, the fuck? And then they all have to like hop into Ernest's little Tempo. He's just got like this little hatchback and her Tempest, and they're like, what the fuck? They're always doing that. All right, let's get in fucking Ernie's car, I guess. So you see this beautiful SUV driving up into the mountains, and this little fucking Tempest with like 8 people, well, not 8, but like, 5 people crammed into it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah, like a little clown car. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, and then like I said, we could just do like I said before, we do the typical road montage,
traveling montage.
Where, like you don't exactly know how far it is because we don't really know how far the university is. Yada yada yada. Some time passes. They get up there, and I mean, I guess they would just know where it is. Like, we don't have to stop and explain. We don't need to have a scene where somebody's like looking at the GPS and like comparing it against like old newspaper clippings or some bullshit. We can they know where they're going for whatever reason. Who cares? So,
right.
We show them just pull up, and it's right up on that same, it's the same road or wherever it was where we saw the lumberjacks in the cold open, the foreman, when we saw the foreman come up in his Suburban, it's the same little area right there, and they get to a certain point where they can't drive anymore. They're probably on some like dirt path off the main road that they left a mile back, and so we can see Delia and Clayton. They're gonna pull up and stop. The other car pulls up behind him. Delia jumps out. Again, she's like the ringleader, so she's like, okay, guys, like that's as far as we can go. We gotta hoof it from here. But good news is, it's just right up this little hill, and like everyone grab a tree. But she doesn't grab a tree.
Well, of course not. Of course not.
So somebody has to grab 2 trees, or whatever. Like, okay. So I mean, so they grab all their shit. They got to leave Ernie, behind. He's like the last one where he's trying to balance like two fucking like tree saplings, and he's got like a big bag of whatever fucking gear he would bring with him. Maybe
all of his camera equipment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. No. It's all the extra lenses and shit because Nick has the camera and he's walking.
Oh, that's right.
Nick is walking backwards, like up the hill, like through the woods, like carefully because he's filming Delia and the rest of them coming. Like for their social media video, and like we can do some dumb little joke where he like backs into a tree, but whatever. But yeah, Ernie's got like all the extra lenses and the gear and like flashlights and like two trees, and he's just like, guys, help,
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. They walk up through the trees. It wasn't that far to where the hippies were chained against the tree in the opening sequence, so it can't be that far up from where they parked. But
well,
go ahead.
Maybe they didn't park where like the foreman parked because maybe that's like deeper in, like on that dirt road. Maybe they parked at like whatever the national park parking spot is. It's like they go up the road until it's like a gravelly path, and then I'm picturing one of those like parking lots that's all gravel with the logs kind of marking off where the parking spots are.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, okay, well, we got to go down. Like it's a bit of a hike, guys. Like we got to go through here to get around to the circle. Like maybe that whole area is like not easy to get to from the road, like where the logging operation was.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. They could even see a sign like where they drive.
No trespassing or something.
Yeah, something like that. Or like road washed out or whatever. Yeah, I don't know if it makes any sense, but like it would be cool if as they get up to the spot, it's the spot because we see whatever that vehicle was that I didn't know the name for. What is it, like the auto saw or whatever? Let's just have it where it's like still there. Like the foreman was so pissed that he was just like, fuck that thing, and they just like left it there. So now it's like 30 whatever years later, and it's just like overgrown and rusty. But one of them can make some comment about like, about the loggers, whatever. Like, oh, this must be the place. Like, look, this is one of those machines like those loggers use. Like, of course they don't know what it's called either.
Right. No, that's perfect because of course Ernie would be looking for signs of like the story that he was telling everybody about. So yeah, as they're hiking along, they would find like maybe a semi cleared part of the forest, and it's like, oh, I think we're getting close, and then you find the chopped down because the machine would be closer to the circle, like where the grove was. So it'd be like over that way. So yeah, they'll eventually come across that and be like, oh, we're getting close. And what if like right here, like right when they're like they're close to where the grove is, like they're within a stone's throw, like it's beyond the trees just up ahead. What if they hear like a chopping sound, or Nick does? Like Nick hears like, and he like stops and he looks around like while he was like filming, because he's walking up ahead of them. And he's like, hey guys, you hear that? Is that your murder jack, Ernie? And then maybe we hear another thwack, and then you see birds flap, and everyone kind of like, has that Scooby-Doo gulp moment of like, is everything okay? And then nothing. They don't hear anything after that. Because it's like, what was that? Was it just something in the woods? Was it the murder jack?
Yeah. Oh, and it's a classic horror movie trope to just have like a bunch of birds burst out of the trees, like an ill omen, Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so Nick, who was very much thinking of himself the whole time, he kind of elbows Kiefer, like, check it out, man, and he pulls out from his pocket, he's got a handful of like cannabis plant seeds, and he even has like one that's like a little sapling, just like they're big trees. It's like in a little muslin cloth wrapped up at the bottom, and he's just like, check it out, man, and of course Kiefer is just like, hell yeah, brother, and like just let the audience know.
Well, yeah, they want to have their little stash up there where no one can find it.
Yeah, exactly. So the group goes up a little bit further, and I think they have to come across now the grove again. It wasn't that far away from where the lumberjack machine was, and I think
it was literally like just like I'm picturing it like a football field. It's like it's straight ahead. It's not very far.
Yeah, it's within like you could hear people, if they were like laughing or screaming, like that's kind of how close. It's just like you could kind of hear the noise from the hippies, like chained to the tree. Anyway, regardless, we should have this kind of cool cinematic moment. Like the cinematographer spends some money on the sequence where we see the group, they're going through the trees, and Delia is going to be like, "Oh guys, check it out! I think this is it." And she lifts her hand up to like pull back a branch, and then you see this great shot where you see what she sees, where suddenly there's like an opening in the trees, and there's just this huge like open field, like all the trees are gone where the grove used to be.
Absolutely. And it almost looks like the lawn has been fucking manicured there. Like it's just like from forest ground, so grass and brambles and weeds and everything growing everywhere, to suddenly this like clear, almost like picture like Hank Hill's lawn, like this idyllic lawn, but like I'm picturing almost like a big circle, like a huge circle, perfectly cleared except for like one section where there's like all of this gnarly overgrowth and like maybe like a big gnarly knotted tree and like a bunch of different plants. So like when we first see it, like it looks almost like the Ren and Stimpy, like remember the shock panels that they would always do, where it's like the zoom in on like Ren's nasty teeth or something. It would be like that, where Delia would pull back the branches, and then you'd see this beautiful, almost sparkling in the sunlight, beautifully manicured lawn, and just panning by, and then we see the brambles like there's just this nasty section of like, oh, and she kind of leans back and goes, I don't want that in my shot, like,
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. Because it's like it's the middle of the fucking forest. Even if there was somebody out there like chopping down trees, like it's still wilderness, at least around it, at least on the edges. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. The idea that there's like a manicured lawn where, and one of them can mention that, like, holy shit, it looks like someone's been up here with a fucking lawnmower. Like, what is going on? And it's like they've all, they all heard the story about the supposed like, lumberjack or the murder jack that was up there, and people telling stories of supposedly hearing chopping, like somebody was up there chopping trees, but they weren't expecting it to just be like a big wide open field, and like clearly there's been somebody there. But one of them, I don't know, Ernie or somebody, one of them could, can make that comment about like the lawn, but then like, yeah, but like, not everywhere, because over here you see there's like, there's a little sprout sticking up, and there's a weed popping up over there, and so clearly like things are still growing. Maybe there's even like a little tiny tree sprout or whatever, and so it's like, okay, yeah, so there's still stuff growing here, and and this is, I think this should be, I don't know if he should do it in front of everybody, or if he would want to keep it a secret. I feel like Nick wouldn't give a shit, because I feel like the comment of like, oh yeah, like look, there's still some stuff growing here, Nick would be like that sounds like the perfect soil for my little babies to grow, and he just like immediately just plops down and just starts like planting his his seeds and his little like weed sapling or whatever it is, a little sprout. And of course, Dela's gonna give him some shit like, what the fuck, man, like, we didn't come up here for that. He's like, maybe you didn't come up here for this, but I did.
Exactly. And he pats the soil all around. And he's like, let's tuck you in nice and tight, like he's like talking to the little plant, and like Kiefer's just like, yeah, man, like he's all excited. And like, we could have Valerie like maybe just kind of like looking on in interest, like, oh, that's, like what strain is that type of thing? Because she's the inquisitive one. Yeah. But yeah, we need to have Delia and Clayton like set up the shot. They gotta get ready to plant all of their saplings and do their whole social media thing. But like, so she could have Clayton getting stuff set up. Like, she's like, Nick, get over here and set up your tripod, blah, 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 blah. And Clayton's getting like picking out the perfect angle. So it's like, she's like, make sure that's not in my shot, and points at like all the brambles. And like, they turn the camera so it's not, and they're getting everything. But while that's happening, Valerie, who was just kind of taking an interest in like the weird overgrowth section, have her point out, like, guys, it looks like someone was chopping this tree. Like the tree is like this huge gnarl. That's the one I was talking about, with like all the like the big knots on it and shit. And like what are you talking about? Nobody was chopping the tree. And like Ernie comes over and looks at it. He's like, yeah, guys, she's right. do we want to do this? Like, I mean, and I'm just like, oh, stop it. You're not going to scare us. It's a stupid story. And just, they wave it off. So it's like, they notice there's something amiss.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I think the audience will understand, but like, yeah, exactly. Just like, you got to have those characters in horror movies that they're just constantly in denial because they're like, they can't believe that any of that stuff could ever possibly be true. They live in this like perfect world, like, oh, that's all just in movies. But yeah, and of course Delia is just very single-minded. She's just focused on, we gotta, like, plant the trees, everybody grab a shovel, grab a spade, like, let's get to business. And of course, obviously Nick and Kiefer, they would be groaning like, oh, okay. And then
Right.
I don't know if it's a montage or what, but we can just speed up time a little bit. We show them, they dig up the holes for the saplings, and then they put the trees in. Of course, Delia's going to be real fucking picky about, like, no, that one's too close. You got to move it over here. And it's like, move it over. Like, I just dug a hole 2 feet in the ground. Like, so what? Like, you should have dug it in the right place.
Oh, she's insufferable. I already hate this chick, and we created her.
I know, right? Those are the best characters.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so they finally get the shot like all set up. Some time has passed. Like, again, I don't know what time of day it is. Maybe it's getting dark already. I don't know, but like, it takes a long time to fucking dig holes in the ground. Like,
Yeah.
I hate to keep going on these fucking like side paths, but it wasn't that long ago that I dug a 6-inch trench around the wooden fence in my backyard to put a little rabbit proofing mesh in, and it took fucking forever. I mean, granted, I live in a part of Texas where the clay is really thick and it's really like close to the surface, but Jesus Christ. So it's like every time I see some movie or some TV show, like on The Walking Dead, when every fucking episode they're digging graves for people, it's like, do you know how fucking long it takes to dig a grave by hand with shovels? Are you kidding me? No way.
And it's never one. It's always like 4 or 5 graves. It's like, no, that's not going to happen.
No, it is so much work. Like, there's absolutely no way that you would ever dig a proper grave. Like, the best you could do is make a little indent in the ground, put a body in it, and cover it with leaves. Like, that's the best you're gonna get. Yep. I'm sorry. It is exhausting, backbreaking, time-consuming work. But whatever. Like, so yeah, it takes a while for them to dig these fucking holes, put the trees in. They gotta line it up just perfectly. Delia's all super proud of the shot. Or hell, maybe she could even be excited because it's like, oh, the perfect timing, like it's the golden hour, that time right before twilight, like the lighting is perfect and everything is all lined up perfectly, and it's just her and Nick in the shots, and the others come around to get in the shots, and she keeps making an excuse, or Clayton keeps making an excuse to angle the camera just so that, like, Kiefer's not in the shots because he's just like a dirty stoner, or like fuck Nick, or like or ew, Ernie, you're too dirty, I'm sorry, go get cleaned up first, or whatever. It's like, it's so curated for social media.
And this thing, like, she could make it this, again, she's kind of making it about herself. So when they're doing the video, she could be talking about like how it's the 30th anniversary of the Arbor Day Massacre, and like, this grove that once held nothing but death will now hold life once again, and like do her whole like, I care too much, like all saccharine and just like, you fucking hate her. Oh god. So like, but yeah, like, so she does all that at the perfect time, like everyone's rolling their fucking eyes and all that. And then, like, I feel like here we should have like something startle them. So maybe, I don't know, like you hear like another, like the typical tree branch break in the woods type of thing. Like, what was that? I don't know if we want to go that route, or like have a chopping sound happen, or have like literally, we have a reveal here. I don't know what we want to do.
Yeah, I think we should do another creepy moment first, and then kind of move in to this like second act or whatever. But
okay.
Well, Delia and Clayton are so focused on their perfect shots, like the golden hour. The golden hour's past. It's getting just a little bit dark now. Yeah, let's just see over on the side, Kiefer, who kind of just got kicked out. Like, he kind of got ousted.
He's the dirty pothead. So yeah, he knows he's not in the shot.
Yeah. So he's like standing over on the side by like where that ugly brambly stuff was that Delia didn't want in the shot. It's a perfect place for him to be standing. And he's just he's maybe he's got like a little pipe, and it's just all spent, and he's trying to like light it. There's just nothing there. He's getting kind of frustrated. Like
He's
he's kind of
gonna
like
smoke the resin.
exactly. He's like rubbing his pinky nail around in the bowl, trying to get the resin to ball up, so he can like smoke it, right? Exactly. um, and he's just getting frustrated, and finally he just kind of like gives up. But when he does, he happens to look down, and he sees right by the brambles is this little pot plant that like looks fresh, except it's been cut down, but like recently, and maybe there's like a couple of them. It looks like somebody just came through there and just chopped them down like that day, and
Maybe they're not even like fully like somebody like broke, like what was clearing it, and they're kind of bent over, like they're chopped the
okay.
stem, they're dying like the plant, and maybe they're like, oh shit, dude, we can't let this go to waste, and it's like, and then they pull it up from the ground, or they break it where it was cut.
Oh yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, because we have to have Nick run over because he's gonna get all excited about it. Like, Kiefer's gonna be like, "Yo, dude, check this out," and like Nick runs over, obviously, because anytime someone's yelling, "Check this out," he's like opportunistic. But anyway,
Yep.
but here's an idea. Let's see that around where this plant is all this like dead other plant matter. It's all like dead and brown and crumbly, and there's just like this one pot plant sticking up, like you said, kind of broken over or like half cut. And Kiefer's checking it out. Nick just comes right over. He's like, "Yo, fucking hell yeah!" And he grabs it, rips it out of the ground. And as he's looking at it, like, "Oh, dude, look at the crystals on this. Oh, what the fuck?" And we see from his POV, he's holding it in his hands, and then we see this like time lapse where it just starts to shrivel and die and desiccate and get all dried out, but like really quickly while he's
Yes.
holding it. And so he goes from being really excited to like, "No, what the fuck? Holy shit, dude!" Like,
I'm almost picturing the claymation dissolves at the end of Evil Dead 1, where like the Deadites start dissolve, and it's like that quick time lapse like desiccation. It's like blah, blah, blah. So, and I think that would be fun for a movie like this to have some fucking claymation special effect.
Oh yeah, like just have some fun with it. Yeah, exactly. And so Nick's gonna be like, yo, whoa, wait, I have an idea. And he grabs the pipe from Kiefer, and he takes the plant in his hand, starts crumbling between his fingers, like right into the bowl of the pipe. And I feel like maybe Meredith should be the kind of one who's just like, "Are you gonna do that right now? Like you guys didn't smoke enough like before we left and on the way up here and when we got here. Like, is that all you ever think about?"
Right.
Because of course, she thinks it's gross and like, whatever. But I don't know exactly what. I just think it's an interesting, little thing to add that, this plant is still growing there. Somebody cut it down, but also like it died so fast. And
right.
I was thinking about that because, if somebody's been up there cutting trees down this whole time and the grove is totally clear, like that's a lot of wood. Like, where does all the lumber go? Or if he's like mowing the lawn,
Right.
like, where does all that stuff go? And I was like, well, it's kind of an interesting way to get rid of it if we show that every time it gets chopped down, it just like super ages and like it would just crumble apart and just whatever, like become loam or whatever you call it. I forget what the word is. The shit you put in your garden, what do you call that crap? Like the fertilizer, mulch. That's the word I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
My brain just
that makes sense.
Simple word. Of course, Kiefer's like, "Yeah, dude, it's all perfect, man." And Nick, he's like fumbling around for a second for a lighter, or Kiefer's, looking in his like Baja pocket, like, "Where did I put that fucking lighter?" And
right.
And then Nick goes to light it up, and right when he goes to light it, this fucking axe head just comes chopping through the frame, chops the pipe right out of Nick's hands, but also we got to get this perfect like body horror close up where the axe just slices right through his palm, like real deep, and just like gashes it right open. We get like a little blood splatter, and Nick's he's fucking screaming, and then looks up and there's fucking Burly John with this axe with blood dripping off of it.
And again, he's going to be wearing like that same outfit that we talked about, but it'll be all tattered and ratty and like patched up like he'd been hemming it out in the woods. So
Yeah, like
he's got like this tattered flannel and jeans and shit.
yeah, like he's been wearing it for like 30 years, and I don't know if we'd see it in this scene, but like there's like a bullet hole or two in it, you know.
Yes. But yeah, so like it pans up like obviously we're gonna see Nick's sliced hand, like freaking out. We pan up, we see Burly John holding the axe, like just kind of like he just kind of grunts and everyone scatters. Like
Yes.
I'm just picturing like kind of like that, like when a bull kind of snorts. A picture of Burly John kind of like like, and everyone just goes and like runs off into the woods in different directions, like all not even making it, like literally just wide-eyed staring at him, like in disbelief of what they're witnessing, and then he grunts and they're just like boom, fucking gone. They all run in different directions, which of course it's a slasher movie, so you're not going to run back to the car. You're going to run deeper into the fucking woods because of course you would. Yeah. It's a slasher movie.
Exactly. Well, they're not thinking straight, right? And yeah, they just start running. And I think it'd be funny if we we focus on Clayton because he still has the camera that he was holding the whole time, and he just has to like turn it around on himself. He's the kind of guy that he'd be running for his life, and he would turn the camera around on himself and just be like, "Oh my God, guys! Oh my God, guys! There's a maniac out here. The murder jack is real."
Oh my God, dude! It should be even no. It's not just the camera. He's because they left the camera equipment. It's his fucking cell phone. He goes on live. He would be the type of guy that is constantly on social media, constantly going live. Even when he's running for his fucking life, he's trying to create content. So he's running through the woods and he's holding up his phone. So he ain't really looking where he's going. He's looking at his camera. He's like, oh my God, chat, I'm totally being chased by the infamous murder jack. You're not going to believe it. Oh my God, pray for me. He's doing like the peace sign and shit. Like just... But while he's running, what he doesn't see is, again, keep in mind, this is a big overgrown forest. It was a lumber operation going on. We don't know what the fucking lumberjack's been doing out here for all this time. So there's going to be like a lot of broken trees, a lot of cut down trees, a lot of just hastily chopped down trees. So he's running along, and then suddenly we hear like... and blood hits the fucking phone. and we pan out, and he ran, like Tucker and Dale versus Evil style, ran right into a fucking log, impaling himself. And he's just looking down, and like in the chat, we're gonna see like fake, totally fake, doing it for the views. You're an asshole, Clayton. Fuck you, not falling for it. One after the other, and he's just like watching as his chat is mocking him as he's drooling up blood. And then we see right behind him, right before the video cuts out, we see the lumberjack like bearing down on him, like looking over his shoulder, and if people just be like, oh shit, what's that? And then it cuts, and it's like we like let's go back to like someone back at the campus watching on like Facebook or whatever. It's like this video has been removed due to violations of terms and services or whatever because all this fucking blood just hit the screen. Yeah. And so like everyone's like, what the fuck just happened? Was that real? Wasn't it real? Like, but oh, dude, we should okay, so remember, everyone's scattered in different directions. Clayton just killed himself, but the lumberjack is right there, right? So now we should cut to a different POV. Let's cut to Nick, who's like, holding his bloody fucking hand, like running through the woods. He hears everything. He turns and he sees the lumberjack over top of fucking Clayton, blood everywhere. And he's like, oh my God, he's going to kill me. He's going to fucking kill me. He's going to see me. And his blood is dripping like he's leaving a trail. He's like, I gotta get out of here. And he goes to take a steps on a fucking twig. We do the classic horror movie thing. The lumberjack snaps to, looking at him, and just starts walking straight at Nick. And he's like, fuck, I gotta get out of here. Just takes off running, but leaving a dripping trail of blood as he goes.
Okay, yeah, so he's gonna like lead the murder jack like right to him.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it. We should. Okay, so let's cut away from that for a second. Okay, let's cut to, let's say that Ernie and Val they ran off in like different directions, but as they ran off in the different directions, they weren't really running in a straight line, so they're just like running, and next thing you know, like, Ernie's looking around and like, scanning the forest, like, oh my god, who's there, and next thing you know, he just like runs right into Val, and they like bonk skulls and like fall on the ground,
Yep.
and they're just like, oh shit, like they were both trying to run away, and they just like ran in kind of a half circle and bumped into each other, and they're just like, oh my god.
When you're running through a forest, it's very easy to get turned around and literally go in a circle. I can't tell you how many times I did that back in Allegheny when we used to go camping every summer. We'd go on a hike, and me and my brother would just kind of wander around, and we'd keep circling the same area. Like, wait, how do we get back?
Right? Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, they scattered in all different directions. They're running for their lives, so they're not going to be paying attention. It makes perfect sense to do the fucking Scooby-Doo head bonk. I fucking love it. And it fit tonally with what we've already done.
Yeah, exactly. And fuck, like, is it too much to just have them like knock each other out? Like, they hit so hard that they literally just bonk each other, and they fall like victims, like laying in the woods, like, oh shit, and then we can cut away again. Like, we just pan the camera back from them, and then we cut away again. And like, okay, so let's see what happened to Meredith. We see Meredith, and she's running. Maybe she's doing that thing where she kind of like runs in one direction, like, oh shit, where are the cars? Back here, and she's like talking to herself, run back over that way, and she's like, no, shit, no, that wasn't it. It was like downhill. Okay, so it's over this way. And she's just like so like panicked and confused, and like doesn't know where to go. That she's not really going anywhere.
Right.
And then I don't know if we need to check in out with everybody. But Kiefer's out there somewhere, and then I feel like we should see what Delia's doing, because she might have gotten startled and run, but I don't feel like she's the kind of person who's going to panic and just like flee and like like every man for himself kind of a thing. I feel like she would be the one who would come to her senses and stop and be like, wait a second, we got to get everybody back together and make sure we all get out of here together alive, because she's the hero in her own head.
Hero in her own head. I fucking love that terminology. I'm going to remember that. They're a hero in their own mind. Yeah. Okay. So, we had Valerie and Ernest bonk heads, or Ernie. Hold on. Let's back up for a second. Do we want him to bonk heads, or do we want Val to accidentally take Ernie out, trying to fight back against the lumberjack and knock Ernie out?
Yeah, yeah, that'd be good. Sure. Yeah.
So let's I'm sorry to cut back, but let's have Ernie running through the forest, and he's looking around. And it's like that panic shot, almost like when Guillermo del Toro does like a close-up fight scene in Blade 2 or Hellboy, where it's just like blurry screen, kind of like you're just seeing a lot of shit going by, and you see his close-up on his face. He's just all out panic running, and then like he's running through a clearing, and suddenly a fucking branch swings out and smacks him right in the fucking face.
Yeah.
And he flies down, and he's like, what the fuck? And passes out. And we see fucking Valerie come out from behind the tree. She's like, oh shit, Ernie, I'm so sorry. Like, she was holding it back, thinking it was the lumberjack.
Yeah.
So it's like the little mousy girl is like, nah, my fucking flight mechanism is kicking in, but my fight mechanism is too. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. I love it. So let's just leave them there for a second. Yeah. So yeah, I think we should check in on Kiefer. So I feel like. Okay, I have an idea. So yeah. So again, I know they kind of went off in different directions. I don't necessarily want to like have them split off in like 7 different ways. I kind of like the idea of Ernie and Val being together. Let's have it that Kiefer, he kind of ends up crossing paths with where Nick was, or where Nick ran. Like you mentioned that like drops of blood in the ground. Like Kiefer's not really running so much. I think he like he smokes too much and he's too high. Maybe he's just kind of like stumbling through the woods when we see him, and kind of hyperventilating a little bit. But maybe he comes across that trail of blood.
He's gonna think he died.
Yeah, and let's have him like look down one direction, and like then he looks back the other, like up the trail of blood, like one way versus the other way. Like he's in his head he's thinking, is the person bleeding that way or that way? And if somebody is chasing them, are they coming from that way or that way? And he's like real stoned, so you see him, he's almost like pointing, like and thinking like, this way. Okay, no, this way. So I can run this way, but maybe he'll be chasing me from this way. And it's just, he's kind of like stuck.
I love this. Hold on. So we already have like we did the thing with Meredith like running around in the woods like trying to figure out where it's going on. We have Kiefer doing this, right? So he's looking around like which like that way, and again we could do the POV shot of the camera like switching back. He's looking one way, then he's looking another way, and like let's have him like look the one way and see like a shadow. Like maybe he thinks something is coming, and he's like, oh, like looks a little scared, and then turns the other way, and Meredith pops out, and instead of him like freaking or getting scared, like he just kind of goes, yeah. Like I'm just picturing like a shoulder shimmy and like hands go up like he's doing the fucking Thriller dance, like yeah, you know. And she's like, what the fuck was that? He's like, you scared me. And she's like, that was your scared face. He's like, fuck you.
Because fuck you. Yeah. Okay. So when I
oh my god.
I was thinking something else, but I love that we can still do it. So I want him to kind of like finally make a decision, and now it's perfect because like Meredith is there, and he'd be like, okay, so we're gonna get out of here, and it's like he suddenly wants to kind of man up a little bit, like okay, he's like, all right, we can't go that way, and we can't go that way because of the blood, and he's like, so we're gonna go this way, follow me, and he takes like 2 or 3 confident steps, and then because he like steps off of a little cliff, and it's like he just falls down into like it's like this little ravine full of like branches and rocks and shit, and then Meredith just looks over the side, and you just hear like, I'm okay, like come up out of the ravine.
Yes. Fucking yes. That is awesome.
But right here,
oh, shit.
right here, we had some fun with Ernie and Val. We had some fun with Kiefer Fallen. But right here, Meredith stands up, and her facial expression is like, "Oh Jesus Christ, this fucking stoner!" And then whoosh, this fucking axe just comes right at her head. She ducks at the last second. The axe chops right into like a small tree behind her, like halfway through this little tree. She turns and looks. There's fucking Burly John. He's looking at her with like he's huge, like hateful, like wild eyes. Again, they're that grunt. He's like, "Rrr," and he grunts as he pulls the axe out of the tree. She just does that. She's a scream queen. She's gonna do that horror movie scream, the actress that they cast because she can scream, like Jamie Lee Curtis, and just scream right in the camera. Just the blood curdling shriek. Maybe we even do like the cutaway to like again where like the birds are startled away again, from her scream.
Right.
And then she just takes off and just, fuck Kiefer in the ravine. She just hauls ass.
Right. Nice. I love it. Okay, so we also need to deal with Delia still.
I think just between you and me, I think now we had a little bit of fun with everybody else because I'm kind of like buying time. So now we got to get back to Delia, and I think whatever Delia does, she has to like decide that she's not going to stop because she's the hero in her head, but maybe she's going to go try to round everybody up.
Right. Okay. So he, Meredith runs off, leaving Kiefer to whatever fate, she doesn't know what John has planned for him. So she takes off running. We should see her like running through the woods, and John kind of like walking behind her. Like again, he's a big dude. He ain't running. he's pulling the Jason Voorhees. He's walking.
Absolutely.
Well,
scarier than running. I'm sorry, it is. It's scarier than running.
It absolutely is. The only time that the running is scary is when they've walked repeatedly and then they just fucking burst at you. That's terrifying. I.e. Friday the 13th 4, when fucking Jason is just kind of walking and then he fucking runs at Tommy's fucking sister.
Oh yeah,
that's terrifying.
Or when it's the kind of killer that you always expect them to walk, or like with zombies, you always expect zombies to be slow. That's why the Dawn of the Dead remake was so scary, because immediately you saw that they were fast, and it was like, oh shit, right in that opening sequence, like it's really terrifying how quickly they move, because you're just you're accustomed to zombies acting in a certain way, and it catches you off guard.
Absolutely. So like when a slasher does that, but we're gonna stick with the trope here. Burly John's a slow man, so he's just kind of like lumbering after, no pun intended. Womp womp. So we should hear like some kind, like maybe Delia yells out, like, she's yelling out like, Clayton, Ernie, Valerie, like she's just yelling, and then have John like look over and start going toward her.
Mm-hmm.
And we see her like, she's running through, she's like, I'm not leaving without you guys. Where are you? And like, if we want to make her really, fucking ridiculous, have her like hold up her phone and take a selfie. And it's like, really? Even in this dire moment where you're looking for your friends who might be dead, you're taking a fucking selfie? Fuck you.
Right. Exactly right. But I also feel like is she the kind of person that would call the cops or try to? I mean, they have cell phones. Or
oh yeah, of course she would.
Or because she's such like a a social and like cause head warrior, does she hate cops? Right? Is she like a defund the police kind of a person? Like all cops are bastards, where she wouldn't want to call them.
I think she's the type of person that would gladly hold up a sign that says ACAB, but she would also call them the moment someone like trespasses at her house.
Yes.
Like if someone walks onto her like property, she would be calling the cops. Like some little kid set up a lemonade stand right next to my house and it's on my property line. Right. Like she's that type of person. Would basically weaponize the cops for her own benefit, but would gladly join a march that's like, all cops are bastards, defund the police.
Yeah, so she's like a hidden Karen. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because at least in my personal experience, most of these types of people, this type of cause head, usually is a Karen.
Yeah.
They're usually very annoyed with everybody.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The reason I ask is like in every horror movie, we always do that trope thing where the horror movie's over if they can just call the cops, right? Because we have to get to this cell phone somehow. But these characters are so isolated out. They drove way out in the woods and then they hiked up into the woods. Like, why not? Like, let's just put that on Front Street. Like, of course, like someone's going to call the cops. They all have cell phones. She has her cell phone out taking a selfie. So it's like first a selfie, then I call the cops. Like that to me is the order of events for her,
Oh, dude, hold up. Okay, this is perfect. This is perfect. She calls the cops, like just like you said, she does a selfie, and then she's like, okay, now I'm gonna call the authorities. Then she calls the cops, and like we can see at the police station, like they get the call and all that, and they're like, you're being chased where? And the Bella National Forest. On the 30th anniversary of the Arbor Day Massacre. Okay. All right, honey, we'll send someone right out. Like they clearly don't give a shit because they think it's a fucking prank call.
Yeah.
Now we can have somebody else comment to that cop, like, hey, what was that call about or whatever? And like, oh yeah, I got a fucking, another live one, over here claiming they're being chased in the Bella National Forest, and have them be like, we actually just got a call from the college. They said they were watching one of their friends do a live stream from the forest and everything went dark after he spit blood on his camera.
Oh, okay.
Have them be like,
yeah.
Oh, maybe we should check this out. So it's like, they do go off, but maybe we could have like a delayed thing, like show the cops taking the call once and then later on cut back to the other cop saying something. So it's like, oh shit, we better get out there and look into this. Back to Delia in the woods, like she's like, oh my god, okay, the cops are coming, we'll be fine, everyone will be okay. Like, I mean, of course all cops are bastards, but in dire straits we need police, like
Yes.
So she's like, let's have her start walking. And there's like, a little stream or a creek or something. And she's like trying to find like the smallest path where she can kind of get through without getting her feet wet, and then have her like, while she's like trying to get through this little stream, we'll do the simple noise, or maybe just, oh no, here's even better. Like let's have her like the sun's going down. Right. So she's trying to make her way out of the forest. She's going across through this little stream. And then like suddenly a shadow like comes across behind her, like completely blocking out her light. And she turns like, her perfect light, she turns and looks, and there's Burly John standing on the hill, like staring down at her. And she's like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here. Like immediately turns into like a coward and starts like trying to run through the stream, and John, like, comes lumbering after her, walking forward, and she's running, looking back, running, like, flailing her arms around. I'm picturing like Paris Hilton in House of Wax, just like running, arms flailing, looking back, and she just fucking steps on a river rock, slips because it's all covered in algae, cracks her fucking head like on another rock. She's like, just like fucking oh my god, I can't think of the brother in Night of the Living Dead, but in the remake that oh fuck, Chop Top, Bill Moseley plays the brother in the remake, and when he gets his head crushed, like his whole head caves in on the side when he hits the tombstone. I'm picturing that, like she just like hits the tombstone and it's clearly like a rubber dummy that's just like the skull cracks in,
Yeah.
And then we cut away, like she's laying in the river dead, like twitching a little, like bleeding from the head, like all filling out, like we could see the stream just turning red as it's as it's brushing past her.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have freaking who do we got dead already? We got Delia and Clayton are dead. Okay, I got to cross out Delia. Okay, there we go. We killed off 2 of them. I was like, shit, who's dead and who's alive? So
Yeah.
Kiefer's in the ravine. Meredith took off running. Nick took off running, and Ernie's knocked out. Or no, not Valerie. I'm sorry. Meredith took off running. Nick took off running. Valerie's waiting with Ernie because she knocked his ass out.
Yeah.
And Kiefer's in the ravine. Okay, I got my people.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that I'm glad you did that because I think it's time to get back to Ernie and Val. Like, we should cut back to them. And
nice.
I don't know that we really need to see the scene where Ernie wakes up and, Val's real apologetic. I think instead we should have them be the ones who are the actual smart ones who try to get back to the cars. I know everyone was like running crazy, but like they're the ones who go back. So I think we should see them like stumbling out of the woods close to where the cars were parked, and just having this conversation where Ernie's holding his head and Val's just like, oh, I feel so bad still. And he's like, yeah, I know you said it already. It's okay. Like, let it go. Like, I get it, and it's just,
right.
Just to kind of, we just jump ahead in time and explain like, yeah, he woke up and she apologized, like move on, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but then like, yeah, and then as they're talking, they walk up and they're like, yes, the cars, I knew it was this way, and they get all excited and they run over, and Ernie runs up to his car and he starts like patting his pockets and he's like, shit,
oh no,
and then Val's like, wait, where are the keys? And she's like, I don't know. I usually keep them in my pocket. Like, fuck, I must have put them in my bag. My bag's up there in the clearing. Shit,
Yes.
And he's like panicking, touching every pocket. And then, Val's just like, okay, well, what about Clayton's car? And, Ernie looks up. I don't know. Clayton probably has them. Shit, I don't know where he is. Like, everyone took off running. Like, who knows where Clayton is by now? God damn it. And, they're fucking pissed. And, Val's been like real quiet and mousy, but I feel like this would be a good scene for her to get a little spine and just have her like look back at the woods and look back at Ernie and like, okay, well, we need the keys, so let's go. Like, and she just like grabs Ernie by the jacket sleeve and he's kind of half dragging him like, come on, like, what else are we gonna do? And it's like, shit,
right.
Maybe someone else might have just been like, fuck, I guess we're just gonna hike down the road and get out of here. But no, she's like, we need the keys, and she turned and
Yep.
we see them go back. We should see them. Whatever path they take back, again, they were kind of running off, panicking. Maybe the path they take back is maybe not crossing that stream, but like close to it. Just because I think it would be interesting is as they're walking back, maybe Ernie even says something like, "This isn't exactly the way we went before. I think we like went off path again. It's hard to see in the dark. Like, do you hear that? Like, I don't remember there being like a creek. Do you hear that creek? The stream, and then to the point where I think it would be really funny if they end up seeing, they look down a little bit to where the stream is and they see Delia, and we do that like fast zoom in where they zoom down, we see her body kind of like almost like staring up at the sky, dead eyes, like head caved in.
Yes.
And then the two of them are like, they scream, and of course they start running back, but not back toward the cars, but they just run away back vaguely in the direction of the clearing because they still need the keys.
Now let's cut back to Kiefer, and let's get him up out of the ravine. So he he kind of gets himself up. He's dusting himself off. He's like, "Ow, bitch! Like that shit hurt," And he's starting to climb up out of the ravine. Gets up, stands up finally on the like at the edge, like dusts himself off. He's like brushing all the like leaves and dirt off his pants. And while he's bent over, what he doesn't see is that Meredith is coming up behind him, like because she's still trying to find her way out. She keeps running in circles. Like him stand up and he sees her, he's like, yeah, and he's like, stop doing that. Just like she scares him again.
Yeah. And maybe he can even say that, like, I thought you ran away. She's like, I did. I don't know how I keep ending up back here. This is like the fourth time.
Right. And would be like, well, we got to get the fuck out of here, man. Let's go. Like he's just like completely ignoring the fact that she's been trying to do just that. He's just still dusting himself. I was like, stop scaring me, you spooky bitch. Like just fucking freaking me out over here, man. So they start heading toward the clearing. Maybe he even mentions, he's like, it's right up here. He goes, I never fucking forget where weed is, man. He's like, we left that nice pile right there. Like, let's fucking get that shit and get to the cars. And she's like, fuck the weed. Let's get to the cars. Like, no, we got to get back to the bags, man. They got the fucking car keys. Remember? That's where we put them. And she's just like, okay, all right, whatever. Let's just go. Let's go. So they find their way back to the clearing. And of course, Nick is going to be like, not before I have me spinach, or not Nick, I'm sorry,
Kiefer.
Fucking Kiefer is going to be like, not before I have me spinach, that type of thing. He's going to take some of that fucking weed, and he's going to like start crumbling it up into his rolling papers, he needs to have some on him. So
I mean, I think every good stoner is going to have like a pack of zigzags in his pocket, even though he had the little pipe and it was out. I mean, he would be prepared. I feel like again, he could all he has to do is just reach in one pocket. Nope, not in there. Reach in the other pocket. My trusty ZZs, and and then just roll a joint.
Right. And maybe she can even say something like, how do you always have weed on you? And he's just like, well, yeah, I grabbed some of that weed that we got to go back and get the rest of it, man. I took some of it. I had it on me before, fucking scary axe had, come after us. He's like flipping out of it. But anyway, so he rolls a joint. She's like, this is not the fucking time. He's like, it's always the right time. You don't understand. That's why I'm so calm and you're not, Yeah. And he's like, they're walking. He's just sprinkling it into the fucking rolling paper, and he rolls it up, fucking licks it, like gives it the big old Scooby lick, rolls it up and lights it, takes a big fucking like huge hit off of it and hands it off to her. He's like, it'll make you feel better, promise, like hands. And she's like, well, this has been a very traumatic experience, It's like, all right. So she takes her first hit of weed.
Oh no!
Dun, dun, dun. You don't do that in a slasher movie.
I know, right? Oh, don't have sex, don't do drugs, kids. Or the slasher will come and get you.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, so she takes her first little hit, and she should just, the tiniest little hit, like the tiniest little inhale, and then she just immediately just starts hacking like crazy, like not the little like. Little feminine cough. No, it's just a full-on like deep throat, like smoker's hack. Like you would not expect that noise to come out of her. Just
yes,
this is the worst. The worst. Stoner's like dry mouth cough you've ever heard. Just and again, Kiefer's just like, whoa, man, like take it easy. He just thinks it's fucking hilarious, but
yep.
And she lets out like a couple more like little coughs, just the driest, most painful things you ever heard. But she finally finishes her little coughing hit. She stands up to just be like, I don't know how you do that. And she clears her bleary eyes, looks at him, because he hasn't said anything. Normally he's always just kind of chuckling all the time. And she looks at Kiefer, and he's standing there, and he's got that same, stoned kind of half squinty eyed look on his face, but he's frozen solid. Like he's totally stock still. Oh. And he still has like the joint in his hand, halfway to his mouth, just not moving at all. And Meredith is like, Kiefer, like, are you okay? Like, is that from the weed? Like, hello? And she like waves her hand in front of his face, and he's like totally not moving, not seeing anything. And she takes a step closer. Don't forget, like, it's also getting kind of dark. So she takes a step closer to get a better look at him, like looking him in the eyes. And she looks at his eyes, and it's like she sees the eyes start to darken, like his pupils in the middle of his eyes just get wider and wider and wider until his whole eye is like
Ooh.
black and kind of a weird like nutty brown color. And then she like gets startled and takes a step back, and when she does, she sees that his hands where he's holding the joint in his face, they start to get like these veins on the side of him, like on leaves, like those little like growing on the side of his face and on his hands. And she's just like, she's like almost like shivering in fear, like can't even like make a noise anymore. And of course, she probably just like coughed her throat out and can't scream, and,
right.
But she's just petrified, and he's totally still. But you start to see him transform into something where he's holding that joint. His fingers just get real like long and pointy and spindly, like little bare branches on a tree, like the the little sticky ends. And he drops the joint, and his fingers get longer, and then his fingers start to like sway and rattle a little bit, and his mouth starts to jerk. He's making weird little like fast jerky motions, and it's like his skin around his neck is starting to turn like barky, like he's turning into like a fucking tree or something. But he's like he's like stock still, and oh shit, she should like look down too, and she sees that there's like roots like poking up like through his shoes and out of his pant legs, like from the ground, like, almost like the ground reached up to like connect with him or something, like tree roots underground. And then he suddenly snaps to, like he snaps awake, like he's gonna say something, but when he opens his mouth, all you hear is like the sound of wind through the trees, just this weird like clacking, rattling noise. And of course, Meredith goes to try to scream, but her voice is gone from all the hacking, and it's like this rasping rattle comes out of her too. And she goes to or I don't want to run away just yet, because but like she stumbles back and like falls on her ass, and she's like trying to scramble away, and we see Kiefer, who's transforming into this creature, and he like rips one foot off the ground, like tears it out, and he like tears the other foot off, and he starts stumbling forward after her, like kind of uncoordinated. She finally gets up and tries to run away. Shit, maybe like right at this moment, like she turns to run and runs smack into Val, who was, her and Ernie were like coming up down the same path. Like, you're like, oh shit, like, we knew you'd find you guys. Oh my God, what the fuck is that? And then you turn and the transformation is complete. And Kiefer has become this like weird, like, almost like a wood nymph looking kind of like creature, like he's kind of a living tree, like very elfin looking, but he just starts to scream this weird rattling noise, and he's moving faster and he's getting closer to them, and the closer he gets, the faster he's moving, almost like he's getting used to his like little colt horse legs, like
Oh my God. See, I'm picturing like the movement being very much like in again, like in every Evil Dead movie when someone becomes possessed by a deadite, how like their like neck and limbs kind of like do that like snap and move, like that real jerky kind of snapping movement, almost like someone's puppeteering them. I'm picturing that like when he's like frozen and he first starts kind of moving, it's like that real jerky, almost like a mannequin come to life, kind of like creaky movements, and then like even make it sound like wood snapping as he's moving. Like that little like creak and snap and twist, and then like, throw his arms back and let out that weird bellow that sounds like the wind through the trees.
Oh yeah, perfect. I love that. Yeah, exactly.
That's such a creepy visual.
Yeah. Oh, I love the idea of the marionette. I was thinking, I couldn't think of the word. I was like, colt horse? No, like I was thinking like a newborn foal, like 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 when a horse is first born, like it stumbles a little bit, but then it can like walk almost right away. But like it needs a minute to kind of get its balance. That's yeah. And then of course there has to be that moment where everybody finally is just like, fuck this, and like they're gonna start running, right? But just like before, when like the axe came through the brambles and chopped Nick in the hand, and the axe came over Meredith's head into that tree, right? It's just somehow out of nowhere. How did big fucking like slasher brutes just sneak up on you? I don't know.
They have a very light step for how much body mass they have,
right? But I want to see Burly John like step in between the group who's trying to run and the Kiefer tree monster. He steps in between with that axe like two hands, and he gives that tree a look like, "Oh, you motherfucker, you stepped in the wrong woods." And it's like, it's like
Yes.
he's like staring him down for a second, and then he just like plants his feet. He lifts that axe up like he's gonna chop some wood, and just brings that shit down right on fucking Kiefer, just like inches into him. He puts his foot up on Kiefer, pulls the axe out, and he fucking does it again. And he's just chop, chop, chop.
Nice. So, oh, dude. Okay, so I love this. Like when the friends see Kiefer turn, he lets out the bellow. They all scream. They turn to run, but there's Burly John right behind him. He should be holding his axe in one hand, like looking at him. So they think he's going to attack him, and literally like he puts his hand like maybe on Ernie's shoulder and like pushes him to the side, like walks between him and hefts his axe up at
Nice.
at the fucking Kiefer, like you said. So they're just like, holy shit, like. He's not trying to kill us. He's killing that. Like, what's going on? But after, like he kills Kiefer, like chops through him. And you'd mentioned earlier that the pot shriveled up, desiccated really fast, that quick time lapse. It should be the same thing here. Once he severs Kiefer in half, the upper part that like falls down to the ground, like as it's falling, it should be like desiccating, like almost like ashy bits are falling off of it into the sky as it hits the ground, and have it be a mix of like bone and char. So it's like it's like skeletal, but there's like wood char all around it, and then have him turn. And like maybe he looks at the group, and he's like, "This place ain't right. It's been cursed. So there's evil in this wood." Like kind of he's been living alone for 30 years. He don't know how to talk to people. So and have him be like, "It's important. Did any of you smoke that grass back there?" And have Meredith be like, "It was only one time. I only did it once." And like she just runs off panicking.
Yes.
And maybe have Burly John, like he fucking thumbs his nose and hefts his axe and goes, "Once is all it takes," and starts walking toward her.
Yeah, exactly. Oh god. Yeah, she should like take off across the clearing, right? Because, despite, Kiefer seemingly just being completely clueless, and Meredith was the one running around in a circle. Kiefer actually was walking in the right direction. They were like really close to the clearing, like right there. Like this whole sequence where we're having the monster transformation, and then Big John comes out, Burly John. It's like you would see the clearing like 3 trees away, like right in the background the whole time, right? They're right there. So she takes off, and Burly John, like you said, he thumbs his nose like he's going to business, and maybe have Ernie like put his hand up, like, wait, no, wait, stop, what are you doing? And Burly John, he's not having any of that. He's just like, "Step aside, son," and he like gently pushes him, like doesn't knock him over, but like, "You're getting out of my way," And
yeah, exactly.
And he just starts striding across that clearing. And he was walking before, and I think he's walking now, but it's a different kind of walk. It's a stride. It's a purposeful. Like he's not running, but he's got big legs, and he's gonna catch up to her.
Yep. Yeah, he's doing those like when that tall guy walk when they're in a hurry. Like the big fucking stride. But yeah, like he shouldn't even explain anything. Like he's going after Meredith. Like, Ernie and Val still aren't quite sure. Like, is this guy a killer or not? Like, what the fuck? But yeah, when we get back into the clearing, remember they planted all those fucking saplings. They plant, and we've already seen something is magical about this clearing. So maybe like we see Meredith like running across the clearing, but as she's approaching the saplings, they're like, not fully grown trees, but they're like, it looks like a couple years have passed.
Yeah.
Like they're much bigger. Yeah. So she's going to like stop and be like, "What the fuck?" Like completely confused, turn around and see John walk in toward her and go to run. And she runs in, like tries to run past the saplings, but they don't let her.
Oh,
like
okay.
The branches grab at her. And it's like, again, like, there's something out here. Something's going on with this clearing. The trees have been cleared for a reason. Go for it.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, when she turns to look at Burly John, she should turn, and the camera should look at, focus on her face. And her face has started to change. Like her eyes are that black color. She has those veins.
Oh.
Like she's like, it's subtle, and she didn't like freeze up like Kiefer did. Like we don't really necessarily need to explain why the difference, but like I think it's as as simple as he took a big old toke off of that shit and like it just hit him fast, and she just had that dainty little like half inhale. So her transformation is a little bit different. But when she turns, and then again it's starting to get dark, maybe the moon comes out, and that first beam of moonlight just dramatically shines on her face with her black eyes and the veins on the side. And yeah, she turns to him, gets scared, turns to look away, and right as she does, it's like those saplings just snatch at her, and it's like one's grabbing one arm and one leg and the other arm and the other leg and like grabbing at her clothes, and she's screaming, and it's like in fucking like an Evil Dead, or is it Evil Dead 2 with the trees and the, like just,
Evil Dead,
yeah, just grabbing, and she's just screaming bloody murder, and I think we should see Burly John just like maybe he wouldn't say fuck, but he utters some kind of a curse under his breath, and he picks up the speed. Like he was walking before, now he literally is going to start jogging, like I gotta get there, and
okay.
But before he does, those fucking saplings, they just start ripping Meredith apart. Like they take the arm off and the blood splatters everywhere. They take the leg off and the blood goes everywhere. She's screaming bloody murder. And as they're tearing her apart and the blood is flying around, it's like in real time you're seeing these trees get taller. And then like the trunk splits on one of them, like, oh shit, it's got like legs now, and the fucking trees are starting to transform. Suddenly the branch just looks like an arm, and it's like they're just going crazy on Meredith, and the blood's going everywhere, and everywhere the blood lands, it almost like not like sizzles, but there's like a little like I don't know, like a little puff of smoke or steam or something, and then like the grass shoots up real fast, or like a little root pops up, like oh shit, like even the blood is starting to make stuff come up out of the ground.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, dude. All right. Let's back up for a sec. So everything you said with her starting to turn with the moonlight shot, I think when she turns to run, like, yeah, the trees should block her path and like kind of like grab at her, and then like she's screaming, and then have her like her eyes, like we focus on her face, her eyes go like the whole chestnut brown thing, and her scream turns into that rattle.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And then they start tearing her apart. The blood, like basically she's the sacrifice. The blood starts hitting all the trees, starts hitting the ground, everything you said, and it's all coming up. And when John sees that, like we've already established he's he's the grunter, he's the man of few words. He snorts and is like, fucking Arbor Day, and then starts running right at the trees with his axe held high.
Roll credits. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, but yeah, exactly. He just starts running, and he gets there, and he's just fucking hacking left and right at all, like at the bigger trees. There was, I don't know that we ever said how many of these like saplings, these trees they brought with them to plant, but there were 7 of them. Maybe there's 7 of these trees, but it's enough where like it's like they quickly kind of surround him, and like they're attacking him. They're maybe slashing him across the back, tearing part of his red and black checkered flannel shirt off, and
right.
Maybe one of them gets his cap, and he's just going crazy, and it's obvious he's had 30 years of and being a lumberjack before that, of hacking away at trees as fast as he can, because holy shit, if stuff up here grows this fast and he's been able to keep that clearing clear, he's got to be out there every day. That's got to be an exhausting job to keep shit from growing. And then these fucking like what's the Scooby-Doo term, like these meddling kids had to come up here and fuck with it.
And think about how fucking like beefy John would be. Like you're doing this back-breaking fucking deforesting by hand every day for 30 years. Like this dude would be like muscle on top of muscle. Like he would just be a beast of a man. Also, he would have some fucking some know-how on how to take these creatures down, because he's been doing it for so long. So I think like it should be a combination of, like you said, the trees surrounding him, like they're going to get the upper hand on him, but then almost like not quite Matrix style, but early 2000s fight scene style, where John is just like, we'll be doing the spinning camera.
Yep.
He's fucking hacking tree limbs. They're scratching it. But I want to have, those little like the little boot knives that a lot of lumberjacks wear to like climb trees.
Oh yeah.
He should like go to like fucking kick one of them, and like fucking little knives come out of his boot, and he's like then like pulls it out and like sap comes out. You know, he's just like fucking Quentin Tarantino Crazy 88 style fight scene where like sap is spewing like blood. You know, he's just fucking hacking these things. It's just John versus the trees here. Lumberjack versus tree on Arbor Day Massacre.
Hell yeah. And of course, Ernie and Val are watching this like, holy shit. They thought that this guy was, like a slasher. They thought he was some kind of like a creepy killer who'd been, murdering people and scaring people away from the woods all these years. Like, they're starting to realize, holy shit, like, this guy was protecting everybody, like the world, like he's been,
the world.
Yeah, basically, and it's like, they don't know exactly what happened with Delia and with Clayton, but like, hey, remember, he didn't kill Clayton. He didn't kill Delia.
Yep.
Like
nope. He didn't kill anybody.
He didn't kill anybody.
He killed Keeper after Keeper became a monster.
Exactly. And it's like he swung the axe at Nick and cut his hand, and he swung the axe at Meredith and like missed her and chopped a tree. Like he didn't have to miss. I mean, come on. Like...
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing we're seeing right now. Like what an accomplished motherfucker this guy is when it comes to fighting. And it's like, if he wanted to hit Meredith with that axe, he would have fucking hit Meredith with that axe. I think with Nick, he was just going after the pot. Nick just got in the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Shit. Hell, I just pictured like if he really wanted to chop Meredith, like you said, with that tree behind her, the axe would have gone right through her throat and then like right into the tree, and her head would have like slid off the side of it. Clean cut. But he didn't do that.
Nope. He was trying to scare him out of the woods.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and we should explain that here, right? So. I think we need to have a pause in the action so we can reveal what's going on, right? So, I think Burley John should just be going crazy, hacking away, and then he gets to a point where he's surrounded by hacked up trees. They're already starting to like rot and dry out and and age, and he's just heaving. Maybe he's like hunched over, axe is still in both hands. He's looking around to the left, to the right, like, did I get them all? Are there any more? And he's like he's like pouring sweat out of his face, like his shirt's all chopped up and his legs or his jeans are like all like ripped open from the the tree branches grabbing at him. And this is when Ernie and Val should run up like, holy shit, mister.
Right.
I just said it that way, and all I was picturing was like Dennis the Menace. But like, if what if we did one of those like the horror movie takes on an old children's property like we do, and it's like I could just picture Dennis the Menace walking up like, instead of saying Gene Whiz, he's like, holy shit, mister.
That would be awesome.
Anyway, but and Ernie's a smart guy, and he was the guy who was watching the YouTube video, and he was interested. He's got to walk up and be like, "Oh my God, like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? What happened to Kiefer? Like, holy shit!"
Right.
And I think this is where Burley John, he's gonna be panting and breathing and looking at them, and he's like, I was trying to protect you kids. I was trying to scare you away so you would go. Like, this is my job, my curse. Like, I've been clearing this grove for 30 years, trying to keep it at bay, to keep it here. Like, all you guys had to do was go home. Wouldn't you just leave?
Right. And yeah, and it could be like, wait. So, but you killed all those people. He's like, that's my one regret. Like him having, and like, let's do a flashback here. Let's see what happened in that cold opening. Let's see what happened there. So we could have like, remember, John got offered the pot back in the beginning. With Tom and Jerry, and he was interested. He was like, and we could have like, John do like a fucking voiceover, like a narration here, be like, back then, I was a simple man with a simple job, like it's just kind of like giving his little spiel. We see the whole thing that we saw in the beginning, just quick cuts, like the fucking foreman arriving, the cops arriving. I forget was it Leland? What we name him? Yeah, the little dude Leland or whatever his name was. And the Keith David. Yeah, they're over there.
Yeah, I forgot about Leland already. Like, it hasn't even been that long. Like, it's like it feels like forever ago that we told that part of the story. But yeah, anyway.
I know, right? But yeah, so like, we see all that. Like, we just see a quick montage of that. We see John walk off. We see the hippies with the weed. And then we kind of stop. Like, we fast forward to the point where like, Jerry takes a big hit. Tom takes a big hit, and he goes to hand it off to John and have him like looking at the way I'm picturing the focus here is like him holding the joint out. We talked about that in the last thing. He's holding the joint out to Big John or Burly John. And then we're going to see like through the smoke haze, like I'm just seeing the soft focus of Tom with his eyes, kind of like his eyes being the focal point, being white, John reaching out for the joint. And then we see his eyes go dark.
Okay.
And then like have John be like, that's the first time I ever saw that. He goes, I took that joint in my hand. And I went to go take a puff, but I noticed they were changing. Like, what do you mean they were changing? He's like, just like your friend back there. They started becoming monsters. Like, well, did you smoke? He's like, I didn't inhale. I never inhaled once.
Yeah. Well, and we should definitely see in that flashback, like right after that, like, yeah, I never.
I never inhaled.
I didn't inhale. That's awesome. No, it's awesome. No, it's perfect. It makes perfect sense. Like, but yeah, right here we should see that. Like, go in the flashback. It's like the same kind of transformation we saw with Kiefer. It's like, he sort of like, maybe he like looks at the joint that he just, took a little puff on. And, for people who don't smoke, like even cigarettes, like, yes, there is a difference between puffing smoke into your mouth and actually inhaling it like into your lungs. Like, if you don't know how to smoke, I don't think your first instinct is not to just like take a deep breath where you get it into your lungs. Like you just kind of like suck on it a little bit. It goes in your mouth. And then, you can always tell people who don't actually smoke, Hollywood actors, spotting fake smokers in movies is really easy. The worst for me is in fucking Fight Club because it's in like all the trailers and everything. Every time Helena Bonham Carter as Marla Singer like puffs on her cigarette, which happens constantly because she's a chain smoker, she takes a little puff and then all of it just like floats out of her mouth. It's so obviously not inhaled. But anyway, that's beside the point.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Anyway, but yeah, we should see that same transformation. It's like we should do like this like little focal change in the camera. Like he kind of like looks at the joint and then it's like there's the focus shift. It goes from the joint in the foreground to like in the background, and we see I guess it was Jerry, right? I think they handed it to him, and you see him in that same position like Kiefer was, because those guys both took big old like lungfuls, and yeah, Jerry has that same thing where he is kind of frozen and his eyes are changing, and then we see the same thing. Burly John looks over at Tom, and the same thing is happening, and we get to kind of see that transformation again. Like maybe not in as much detail as we did with Kiefer, but it would be fun to kind of see like it's a little bit different every time. Like no tree is the same.
Right.
And one of these guys had long hair. Maybe the long hair turns into like little vines or something. It would just be kind of fun for like
he looks like a weeping willow.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, we mentioned that before.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, it would be so much fun for the special effects makeup artists to like come up with like a different tree look for everybody. And
right.
Yeah, and it's like, and he like sees them transform, but I think the camera should go back to, or the POV is from Burly John's perspective. Like, what if his vision starts to get like hazy and like green, and like it's like like it's sort of this sort of movie version of somebody who's like getting real high, man. It's like getting real psychedelic.
Right.
Like it's just like weed. Like it doesn't really do that,
Right.
It's like and it's like it starts to like the image starts to swirl and twist around, and the camera shows to Burly John's. He's standing there, just mouth open, eyes open, just kind of like leaning back, almost staring at the sky, like and it's like his eyes, they start to just kind of turn a little brownish, right? Like, maybe his skin looks a little greenish, like just he had that tiny little amount in his mouth, like not enough to make him change, but then he starts to have this vision, and who knows, maybe the other humans who turn into monsters like see this too, but he has this vision where it's like he's looking up at the trees, and then he sees the trees all just kind of like twist down at him like they're gonna grab him, and they all have like like smiling kind of faces on him, and he's picturing, he sees like roots coming up out of the ground and forming into like humanoid creatures, and he looks around, and the whole forest, all the trees have transformed into these these humanoid creatures with like claws and fangs and evil smiles, and he sees them like start to rip their legs out of the ground by the root and like walk down off of the mountain, and they're gonna like march out into the world, and they look all evil and murderous, and then he kind of snaps back to reality. And he sees that Tom and Jerry are they're there, and they actually are transformed, but like the rest of the world is fine. Like it was just a weird psychedelic vision, but he drops the joint like, oh, like like it's evil, and then he does that thing where he like sets his jaw and it's like should we have him say something like again like at the beginning where he was like sometimes you just gotta do it yourself or whatever, and like
I think, well, first of all, like one of the things I just want to jump in there and say with the vision, it's kind of like for anyone who's seen Slither, this is what I'm picturing when I can't remember which character, but one of the characters gets the little hook from Grant like stuck into him, and they see a vision of what the hive mind sees, and they see like the Slither creatures, the aliens, like taking over alien planets. Like they see them like almost like they're like space locusts. They go from planet to planet and kill.
Yeah.
So the vision that I'm picturing with these is like when John sees this, he's seeing the entire forest come to life, like he's seeing what the creatures want to happen. It hasn't happened, but it's what they want to happen. So it's like they're showing everyone who becomes a part of this curse or whatever it is, they becomes a part of it. They're like part of a hive mind. So like John tapped into the hive mind for a second and saw what the plans were for the evil trees, and then like he snaps back to reality, like you said, he drops the joint. We can have him say something, shit's whack, Exactly. The whole 90s like weed is whack, but have him just like look, and then he sees Tom and Jerry, and like maybe like it's at the point we discussed with Kiefer where they're starting to do like the mannequin kind of like snap and move, and we're hearing the cracking, and John I'm picturing Arnold Schwarzenegger as Conan, that wide-eyed, open-mouthed chop he does with the broadsword.
Yes.
I'm picturing John just go like, ugh, and then just fucking chop and bisect Tom, like and then go after Jerry, and then we cut back to the narration of John saying like, after I killed the two that turned already, I turned to their friends. I knew they were all going to smoke that weed. I wanted to stop it from happening. I couldn't let it happen. You don't understand. It was so real. I saw it. I felt it happening. He goes, and I knew they were a part of it. So I killed every last one of them. But they weren't infected. That haunts me to this day. Yeah. That's why this is my curse. I stay here to clear it out, to make sure that never happens. And then you kids came along and fucked it up.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of like that, using that quote again, but instead of using it before, like what I said right here, maybe Ernie can ask him like, why don't you like come tell somebody what's going on, like like maybe you can get some help, and he's like, they would never believe me, like sometimes you just gotta take care of it yourself, or whatever the line is. I can't quite nail the quote, like sometimes you gotta take care of business, and and it's like he gave himself this task, the curse to constantly have to chop down the trees, because he like let it happen. He let those hippies smoke that devil lettuce, and look what happened.
Well, and plus, like he spread blood all over that grove.
That's true. Yeah.
So after he killed, like he's looking at it as like he cursed the land. He killed the hippies. He shed innocent blood all over this grove. And maybe like that night, like after, because remember the cops go searching for him. He gets off into the woods. Like we explained, like he just disappeared at the end of the YouTube video. He disappeared into the woods. So like we could even have John explain here to Ernie and Val that like the cops came after me. He's like, but I couldn't let it happen. I took off, I hid in the woods. And he's like, and that night I heard something moving in the grove, and I came back and I found what you just saw now, and I had to fight every last one of them trees. And like he's like, so I vowed then and there nothing would grow in this grove, and I spent the last 30 years clearing it every day, every tree, every pot plant, every bush, every fucking blade of grass. And then they have them kind of look at each other and like, let's cut to John. Like we see when he's saying every tree, we see him chopping the tree. Every pot plant, he's, you know, chopping those down. Every bush, he's yanking it up by the roots. And he's like, every fucking blade of grass. We see him with like one of those old school push mowers, just mowing the entire circle, going, ah, just screaming at the sky.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, and I love that he explains that, like with all the blood that he spilled when he killed all like the hippies 30 years ago, and then like later shit came to life, and he can say, you know, he can point that out, like, you know, there's something in the blood that they want that lets them, you know, pull up their roots and free themselves from the ground.
So yeah, so he explains everything about like the blood, you know, the bloodshed. He thinks that there's something in the blood that allows whatever these things are to come to life. So when all of you showed up, I had to, you know, scare you away so like no one would get hurt over here. He's like, you know, if any blood is on this land, and then he stops. And he kind of like looks back, like almost like he's having a flashback, and we flashback for the audience's sake. We roll back and we see when he first showed up with the axe and he swings it at Nick, you know, hits him in the hand. Some blood splatters onto Nick, some blood splatters onto John. Maybe a couple drops hit Kiefer. We could have like one last funny moment with Kiefer where he's like, dude, like in slow-mo as he gets hit with blood. But then a couple drops hit the open gash in that big like tree, the big gnarled tree that John was working on, and would cut back to present. John goes, oh no. And he turns and he looks, and we see that big tree swaying back and forth in the darkness, like with the moonlight hitting it. You know, it's swaying and it starts making that weird rattly sound. And then we hear the creaking and groaning, and it's like the one tree, like one big root like starts to pull up like it's coming to life. And then we hear that rattling, almost like cheering, coming from all around them, like outside of the circle.
Ooh, okay.
And have John just like heft his axe and go, there's something in those trees. Black screen.
Yes,
like,
I love that.
Credits.
Yeah, I love it. Perfect. There's something in those trees. Yeah. And you know, it's funny when you were talking about, like, you know, almost like they were cheering. In my head, I was hearing rattlesnakes. You know,
yes,
like first there's one, and then there's two or three. Like, oh shit, somebody stumbled upon a nest of rattlesnakes, and the whole forest is rattling. Like, oh, it's creepy as fuck.
Fuck yeah,
hell yeah, dude. There's something in those trees. I love it.
This went in some fucking directions. Like, again, we talk about this all the time. Peek behind the curtain. Like you and I kicked around an idea for an Arbor Day horror idea for a while now. Like we didn't really put any thought into it, but just like, you know, yeah, maybe it should be a slasher movie, maybe it should be a monster movie. Should we have killer tree? Should we have a, you know, killer lumberjack? What should we do? So we just kind of threw everything into the pot and hoped we made a tasty stew.
You know? Yeah, exactly. And like I said before about like that, like Weeping Willow story idea, it's like the idea of like creepy tree monsters or creatures or something like that. To me, that's what clicked. Like when that came up, it was like, okay, we got to do something with that, you know. And it was like, really hard not to just brainstorm the whole story. Like, okay, how's this going to work? You know, it's like, okay, so you know, again, you know, we brainstormed a little bit ahead of time because it was like, okay, let's just kind of like figure out, you know, okay, we're going to do tree monsters, like we're going to do a lumberjack, we're going to, you know, let's have a scene like this and a scene like this. And it was like, all right, great. Now we got to stop thinking about it, you know. And
right.
But it's hard not to think about it. So, you know, I mean, I know I for one came into this going, okay, I want to do something with these like the people who turn into tree monsters. Like I want to put that somewhere, and we had to like figure it out, you know.
Well, because that's one of the things. Because I originally, of course, like when we first started talking about Arbor Day Massacre, like I was just like, well, of course it'd be a slasher movie. It would be like a cheesy slasher movie, kind of like in, you know, Monster Squad or you know, The Blob. How there's like a fake slasher movie on the screen. That's kind of where my mind went. Like Groundhog Day Massacre, you know, something like that, like something ridiculously stupid. And then you brought this like, you know, tree possession kind of concept, and I'm like, okay, that's too good not to use. Let's use both. Like, this is awesome. Like,
yeah, exactly. And I'm glad you remembered like there's something in those trees, because that's something I may have even mentioned on a previous episode. I remember where I was like, oh, that title is just like, it's a cool title or it's a cool phrase, but like I don't know what it means. It was just like a cool thing, you know. And so again, when we were brainstorming, I was like, okay, what can we do with that? Like, there's something in those trees, and it was like I kept thinking trees, like, yeah, like trees, like, arbors, but also like it's like a nickname for weed. And I was like, we got to put weed in there somewhere. It would just be really fun to have like, there's something in those trees. Like, that's hilarious. But then it was but then of course, Arbor Day Massacre is like it's such a perfect title for the type of movie that this, that we wanted to do, where it's like kind of a slasher and it's kind of weird, kind of supernatural. Like it's the title is just too good as Arbor Day Massacre. But yeah, I think all of this kind of came out. I was watching Predator, I don't know how long ago, and we were talking about trying to do an Arbor Day episode, and I'm watching Predator and I'm seeing, Sonny Landham say there's something in those trees, and I'm like, oh, we got to do this. We got to do this,
Well, and it's like the idea of putting the pot in there definitely kind of cinched it for me, because we got all those fucking silly like slasher movie tropes that go with pot, so like we were able to do like all the stuff, like have the dumb stoner who does the silly shit, have the they're doing drugs, that's bad, don't do that in a slasher movie. So it's like the pot thing was fantastic, plus calling it Arbor Day Massacre with where we kind of came out. It's like, okay, yeah, there was a massacre of people on Arbor Day, but we also massacred a fuckload of trees.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is Arbor Day Massacre.
Yeah. I know, that was the thing I actually liked the best out of the whole thing, is like it's a day for like planting trees and like rejuvenating forests, and I'm like, nah, let's just fucking kill them all. Fuck them trees.
Oh, dude. Okay, final credits song, like when the credits are rolling, Nothing But Flowers by the Talking Heads.
Nothing but I actually gotta write that down. I gotta write that down.
Because like, tell me that's not the perfect, because he's like talking about this perfect oasis, like life has started anew and everything is all wonderful and overgrown and it's all, nature has returned, and he's like, I miss the pavement and parking lots and Pizza Hut, and it's basically like, fuck those trees, fuck those plants, I want pavement.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Oh god.
And it's always fun to just have an excuse to do like to devote an entire episode, like I said before, to like, minor observances, like fucking Groundhog Day. Hell, we even did a Festivus episode. Like, so dumb. Oh, I love it. That's the thing that makes me the most excited about coming up with episode ideas, especially when they're original stories. I feel like the more ridiculous an idea is and the stupider it sounds when you try to explain it to somebody, the more I want to do it. Because then it's like, that's the challenge of, can we make that work?
I completely agree, and I feel like that has been like a hinge point for our creative partnership for the last 26 years. Yeah. Is it's like, how can we make something funny about a killer teddy bear?
Yeah.
Can we make a corn stalk creepy? Like, we would always do like, is there a possible way to make something ridiculous into something different,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
like, yeah, when we did Upai, like, people listening to this don't know what that is, but like, it was like,
right,
we had this concept where it was like, oh, there was like these evil spirits, and there were 7 of them, so we're like, okay, so we need like 7 things to be possessed by evil. Like the teddy bear, the main character, perfect. Oh, like the cornstalk monster we already came up with, like, perfect. We'll make corn stalks scary, like you said. And it was like, well, what else can be possessed, and then we were like running out of ideas. Like, I don't know, like the story takes place on a farm. Like, what else is on a farm? Like, I don't know, like a tractor or a haystack. And then we're just like, wait a second, what if we have a chicken who talks like he's in a blaxploitation movie, just like kick the door in and like, go on like a tirade about chickens being disrespected. And I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Yes, it's in the movie.
Yes, exactly. We are literally the Gremlins 2 pitch meeting over and over again.
Right, on Key and Peele. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
Or like every time Josh Hibbert or like Mike O'May on the Count Creepyhead podcast, they say something like, like turkey hands or something. It's like, all right, well, I guess we got to do an entire episode about a guy who's got turkeys for hands. Like,
and it should be a boner comedy for reasons.
So, not that I'm asking for everyone to give us ridiculous concepts, for episodes, because
No.
we already have a long enough list of ideas as it is. But every once in a while, something comes up, and you just got to do it. Oh man,
Absolutely. Well, technically, I believe Arbor Day Massacre was one of those things. Like, I could be wrong, but I think Hibbard mentioned that on either one of the episodes he was on with us or one of the Boogeyman's Closet. Somewhere, someone said Arbor Day Massacre, and I want to say that it was Josh Hibbard.
Yeah, it probably was.
Professor Peckman.
I think we already had the idea on our list of multiple random thoughts, because you had come up with let's do the tradition of the 80s holiday themed slasher movie, Halloween,
Yeah,
the 13th, prom night or whatever. There's a bunch of them, and of course Thanksgiving, which we did an episode about from the Grindhouse trailer, and so we had a list of stupid things like Arbor Day and Flag Day, I don't know, something will come up eventually.
Right. Yep.
But on that note, I did a little bit of looking things up before we started recording, because I was like, I never actually stopped to check to see if there were Arbor Day horror movies, or if somebody had done an Arbor Day Massacre before. I'd never heard of one, but shit, it would suck if we went down this path and then found out that already happened somewhere. There's been a couple of other episodes we've done, and later on people have told us that already exists somewhere. Oh well. But so I'll say no, not really, but there are some Arbor Day pop culture things. I made a whole list of them. I'm not going to read off the whole list. There is a musical that's actually about 9/11 for some reason, but it's called Arbor Day the Musical, so you can look that up on your own. But
interesting.
There is, you had mentioned this, I think, in our Great Pumpkin episode, but there was a Charlie Brown or Peanuts animated special, 1976. Mm-hmm. It's Arbor Day Charlie Brown, so that does exist. Yep. And there was a low-budget slasher movie from 1990. I have never heard of it before, except I know that I have seen a picture of the killer before, but I can't remember where. It's just I saw the picture and I was like, oh, I instantly recognized it. But it's called Arbor Day, and the people who made it, I never heard of them before. But the Wikipedia description for the movie is: Elmer Jacobs awakens from his catatonic trance to reap a crop of victims using gardening implements. It's okay.
Well, that sounds fun.
The picture of the character is he's wearing a sunflower mask, so it seems more about flowers than trees. But whatever, it was pretty weird.
That's awesome.
But I will say that this is the one I was the most excited about as a comic book fan and as a lover of Mad Magazine and all the classic artists who work on Mad Magazine, like Jack Davis and Sergio Aragonés. It's classic cartooning that a lot of average people have read or probably used to read a lot of. But the timing was so perfect. Mad Magazine had their finger on the pulse in December of 1981. Now think about the holiday-themed slasher movies that have come out, but only by the end of 1981. It's Friday the 13th, Halloween? There can't be that many. I mentioned Prom Night before because I had written down the note. That was about it. But Mad Magazine put out an episode. It was all themed on making fun of the new trend of slasher movies. And Jack Davis, the classic Mad artist that you know of, because if you picture any of the movie parodies that are in most Mad magazines, or at least used to be, all drawn by Jack Davis or someone trying to copy his style. The first cartoon strip ever to appear in Mad Magazine #1 was a Jack Davis strip, and he did a strip called Arbor Day about a lumberjack who kills teenagers in the woods. I did not read it. I only looked at it, and I saved the images. I found a website that had the whole thing scanned. I saved it, and I was just like, I don't want this to influence what we're going to do, but that's funny. We already had the idea of the lumberjack, so that was already ours. But I'll send it to you because
I'm going to want to see that.
I want to read it so bad. I'm going to read it as soon as we're done.
I might do that tonight too, because that sounds really funny.
So yes, Mike, thanks. I am so happy that we got a chance to. First we had Jurgen the Yuletide Avenger, and now we have Burly John the Murder Jack.
We really are creating a fucking roster of original, monsters and madmen.
Oh yeah, I mean we can't forget about Pancake Face too.
Yeah, let's see, we got Jurgen, we got Pancake Face, we got Burly John the Murder Jack. Let's see, we got the Vangabus Ghost, Cotton Eye Joe, the 1 week zombies. Let's see here, we got the hot garbage dumpster.
Yeah.
We got the trash man, and then we got freaking Trash Mouth. What was her name?
Tessie Trash
Tessie.
Yeah.
Tessie Trash Mouth. We got Benson Stills from fucking Festivus Killer. How many more do we get? There's like 10 of them right there.
Yeah. There's probably more I can't even think of. But yeah, those are, you just named off all the ones that I think of. So that's probably all of them. But and then they both died in the story, but we also did Black Friday as a minor observance, Halloween holiday themed slasher film,
I always forget about that one, but I do remember last year sending you a very a stoned message about excitement about possibly doing a return to Black Friday. So maybe one day we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll get there. We returned to Yule Parish and did 2 more installments about Jurgen the Yuletide Avenger. So who knows what the future holds for the Black Friday Killers or Pancake Face or now Burly John the Murder Jack.
I love that.
It's so great. But Mike, we've been talking for a long time and I am exhausted. My brain hurts from spinning around in circles trying to make sense of this story. So
Same.
I think it's time to wrap it up. Once again, thank you everyone for tuning in to the Raised by Rentals program. You can find us online at raisedbyrentals.com, at Raised by Rentals on the socials. We belong to the Rad Pantheon, a super team of podcasters, musicians, artists, all sorts of creative people, creative friends supporting each other to help spread the word about rad stuff. So definitely check out the other projects in the Rad Pantheon at radpantheon.com. What about you, Mike? What do you got going on?
Well, I've unfortunately fallen a little bit behind on the Boogeyman's Closet. Just there's been a lot of work-related stuff that has been keeping me from doing anything fun and creative. And then I have a lot of deadlines coming up for actual other creative projects. So unfortunately, I have fallen behind on that. But I'm in the process of editing the 2 episodes that I've had in the can. And then we are going to be coming back with Critters 2, hopefully very soon. And then, of course, there's always Count Creepyhead Saturday Morning Monster Mash, where 3 grown man children talk about toys, pop culture, and Muppets.
Always a good time. Always a good time. Yeah, I'm looking forward to more episodes of that also coming out soon. But I know there's a lot of stuff going on. Something going on in the first part of 2026. I feel like everybody is so busy. There's vacations and family visits, and unfortunately, in some cases, personal tragedies and lots of working overtime and things. But I'm looking forward to some more podcast episodes coming up. I know everybody's hard at work in the background, as I will be, to edit this to get it out to celebrate Arbor Day this year. So we got our April Fool's episode out on time for those of you who listened to the Groundhog Day 2 episode. If you haven't, and I'm spoiling it now, oops, but it's been out for a couple of weeks now, so I hope everybody actually enjoyed it and got the joke. We got some really great feedback on that episode, especially from Brian Budnick from So It's Come to This, a Simpsons Family podcast, who he and his co-hosts Patrick and Corey, they set the bar, I think, amongst the Rad Pantheon for having a great April Fool's Day episode, which they did last year on their podcast. So we definitely heard that, appreciated it, got jealous, took it as a challenge, did our own. So we hope that everybody enjoyed it. I personally thought it was worth the many hours that it took to plan, record, edit, and release Groundhog Day 2 for the meta joke. To me, it was all worth it to spend the time just for the irony of it, for my own personal enjoyment. So I hope you enjoyed it too.
Literally just did it for the lulz, 100%.
That's it. It's vibes all day. So, like I said, thanks for tuning into the Raised by Rentals program. If you had fun with us, visit us on those socials, drop us a line, leave a comment, leave a podcast rating. Let us know what we should improve next time. And with that, I'm Josh.
I'm Mike.
and we have to plant some trees. Fucking Arbor Day.
There was a factory, now there are mountains and rivers. You got it, we called a rattlesnake, now we got something for dinner. You got it, there was a shopping mall, now it's all covered with flowers. You got it, if this was paradise, I wish I had a lawnmower. You got it.
There's something in those trees.